Hi guys. Tonight we step back, far beyond memory, into a world where the air itself feels like glass, and every breath could freeze before it leaves your lips. You are standing in a wilderness that has no name yet, where snow falls in slow, glittering sheets, and the sky is a curtain of pale silver. You can almost hear it breathing. You probably will not survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you are awake enough, write in the comments where you are listening from and what time it is there. Now dim the lights. The snowstorm thickens around you. It does not scream like modern wind rushing past metal roofs. It sighs, low and constant, brushing through ancient trees and broken stones. You pull your fur cloak tighter and feel its heavy dampness against your shoulders. The cold does not bite yet. It seeps. It moves slowly, like thought, finding its way into your bones. The prehistoric world is not merely cold, it is absolute. Your footprints fill as soon as you lift your heel, and already the horizon disappears into white. Historians still argue whether the last Ice Age people migrated constantly to chase warmth, or if they learned to endure seasons where the cold reigned for months. Some evidence from old settlement layers suggests small bands lingered through winters, making temporary homes in frozen valleys. Others believe such stillness would have meant death. The truth, as usual, hides in the snowdrifts. You begin walking toward the faint shape of what might be shelter. Every step is work. The snow squeaks beneath your animal skin boots. There are flakes in your eyelashes, tiny sharp stars that blur your sight. Somewhere far behind you, mammoth herds move like drifting islands. The low hum of their movement feels like thunder you can only half remember. Survival here is not about speed but rhythm. The tribes that lived in this age learned to move with the cold, not against it. Your breath forms small clouds, ghosts that vanish as soon as they are born. You keep a hand on the polished bone tool at your belt. It is crude, but it matters. Archaeologists have found similar pieces in Siberia and northern Europe, shaped by hand with a kind of patient intelligence that feels human in every curve. These tools were not just for hunting. They were companions, carved and kept, passed from one cold season to the next. A gust rises, louder now. Snowflakes sting like ash. The storm wants to erase you, to make the world clean again. You stop beside a dead tree half buried in ice. Its bark is blackened, scorched by a lightning strike months ago. That too is part of the story. People of your age understood fire not as a convenience but as a miracle that arrived from the sky. Some groups may have worshipped lightning itself, seeing in it the hand of a god who gave both destruction and warmth. A quirky bit of speculation even suggests early humans might have followed burned forests, gathering charcoal to draw symbols long before organized art appeared. You brush snow from the trunk and feel the texture of frozen moss. Beneath your fingers, the surface feels almost alive, slick and rubbery. The smell of wet bark mixes with your own scent of smoke and animal fat. You are not clean, not comfortable, but in this silence it feels right. The prehistoric wilderness did not separate beauty from survival. They were the same. You think of your tribe, scattered behind you along the valley. Maybe they have found a cave, or maybe they are still searching, guided by instinct and hope. At night, when storms like this rise, humans of your kind often huddle together for warmth, sometimes sleeping in piles like wolves. Scientists call it thermoregulation. The old people might have simply called it love. The cold deepens. You feel it in your teeth now. The wind slips into your hood and whispers against your ear. There is something strangely peaceful in this near-death quiet. Your mind slows, and you begin to imagine what it was like for those who faced this not as a story but as life. Their world was smaller but richer, filled with details you might miss today. The crack of distant ice, the smell of mammoth dung drying near the fire, the glitter of frozen blood on a spear tip. Somewhere out there, beyond the storm, a river lies frozen solid. Beneath its surface, fish drift half asleep, slow and silver. You remember hearing that some prehistoric tribes believed rivers could dream, that they remembered every creature that touched their waters. It sounds poetic, but perhaps it helped explain why they always returned to the same places each year. You lift your head and notice something faint in the distance. A darker patch of snow, the shape of an opening. A cave. Relief washes over you like a tide of warmth that does not actually exist. Your body wants to run, but you know better. Sprinting in cold like this burns through energy faster than fire eats dry wood. So you move slowly, deliberately. Every step is a meditation. As you walk, you think of the people who came before you and the ones who will follow. The Ice Age is not just history. It is memory carved into the human body. Even now, your heartbeat slows in the cold. Your fingers curl inward to protect heat. Your body knows what to do. It remembers. Maybe that is why stories of winter survival feel familiar, like echoes from a shared dream. Inside your mind, you hear your own voice murmuring an old rule: never sleep before the fire is made. That rule, simple and ancient, probably saved more lives than any weapon. Without heat, sleep becomes death. The temptation to rest in snow is strong, gentle even, but it is a trap. The cold lulls you with kindness until your breathing fades. Scientists still argue whether early humans understood hypothermia in medical terms, or if they only knew it through loss. Either way, they feared the sleep that came too soon. Finally, the cave mouth looms ahead. Snow whirls past its edge, but does not enter. The darkness inside feels safe, like the inside of a great animal's chest. You step inside, ducking beneath icicles that hang like fangs. The air smells of damp stone and smoke residue, proof that others once sheltered here. Your torchlight glimmers over soot marks on the wall, old but recognizable. Someone made fire here. Maybe they survived. You crouch, setting down your pack of hides and bone tools. The quiet is immense. Outside, the storm groans. Inside, there is stillness. You listen to your heartbeat, slow and steady. You are here, at the edge of time, a single human in a world of ice. For a moment, you feel the tiniest flicker of comfort. In this frozen night, you have done what your ancestors did. You endured. And that, perhaps, is the beginning of every story humanity ever told. You sit inside the cave, your body still trembling from the long walk through the blizzard. The wind outside moans like a lonely animal, rising and falling in uneven sighs. The sound feels distant now, muffled by the thick walls of stone around you. You touch the ground, cold and rough, feeling tiny crystals that glimmer like broken glass. The first task of survival is always the same. You must find shelter, and you have. Now you begin to understand how people of the Ice Age learned to read the land like a language. They did not have maps, but they recognized shapes that promised protection. The curve of a cliff, the hollow under a fallen tree, the snowdrift that rose against a boulder, all spoke the same quiet truth. Here, the wind will hurt you less. Some archaeologists believe those instincts were passed through generations by teaching and mimicry. Others say they were part of an older, deeper animal memory, something carried in the body long before language took form. You crouch near the entrance and study the snow swirling outside. The storm has turned everything to blur. It feels like standing inside a cloud. The flakes are huge, heavy, and the light they reflect makes the world glow faintly blue. You cannot see the stars, but you know they are there, distant and cold. Your ancestors would have used them as guides when the sky was clear, following constellations that no one has named in tens of thousands of years. The Great Bear, Orion, or whatever shapes their minds drew then. You look for signs of animals, but the tracks are gone. Only the faint smell of musk lingers in the air. Reindeer, perhaps, or musk oxen. People in this age depended on those creatures completely. Their hides became clothing, their bones became tools, their tendons became thread. Some scientists believe that cooperation between human hunters and animal herds may have influenced migration routes. Others suggest the opposite, that humans followed animals simply because hunger left them no choice. Either way, the paths of beasts and people are tangled together across the snow. You move deeper into the cave and touch the walls. They are smooth in some places, worn by countless hands and shoulders. Near the back, the ceiling dips low. There, the air feels warmer, still carrying a faint trace of smoke. Someone, perhaps months or years before, had made a fire here. The marks are black and powdery. You can imagine their faces, lit by orange light, eyes wide and alert as the wind roared outside just like now. You begin to gather what little you have. A bundle of dried grass wrapped in hide, a few sticks that had stayed dry inside your pack, and a shard of flint. Sparks jump when stone strikes stone, tiny suns that die almost instantly. Your hands are stiff, fingers slow to obey. The cold makes everything heavy. But then, one spark catches the grass, and a wisp of smoke curls upward. The fire begins as a whisper, then grows into a small, living glow. The warmth is faint at first. It reaches your palms and face like a distant memory of sunlight. The orange light fills the cave, making shadows tremble on the walls. You can finally breathe without pain. The fire becomes the center of your world, a small circle of life surrounded by infinite cold. You understand why early humans treated fire as sacred. It was not only heat, it was safety, light, and proof that they could control something powerful. Some groups may even have buried their dead near hearths, believing that fire helped guide spirits through the dark. A strange thought crosses your mind. Somewhere in another valley, another group might be doing the same thing right now, building their own small fire against the storm. You picture them, people you will never meet but who live the same struggle. The Ice Age binds everyone together through cold. There is a kind of unity in hardship. Historians still argue whether early tribes shared information when they met, trading not just goods but knowledge of the land. The evidence is mixed, but shared tool shapes across distant regions hint that they did. The human desire to teach and imitate may have begun here, beside fires like yours. The storm continues outside, but the cave feels smaller now, more intimate. You start to explore again, holding a burning stick for light. Along the lower wall, you notice scratches and marks. Some look like random lines, but a few form patterns, curved shapes that might represent antlers or rivers. You crouch closer. Were they decoration, memory, or something else? Anthropologists still debate the meaning of prehistoric carvings found in Ice Age caves. Some say they were practical, marking hunting routes. Others believe they were ritual symbols meant to invite good fortune. You run your fingers over the rough lines, trying to imagine the hand that made them. Your body begins to relax. The exhaustion that cold had buried now rises to the surface. You sit again near the fire, pulling your cloak tight around your legs. The hides are stiff, but the warmth slowly softens them. You feel their texture under your palms, coarse yet comforting. You close your eyes and imagine the storm from above, clouds moving like great white oceans, your tiny cave a speck of warmth on an endless field. There is a smell in the air, faint and wild, like resin from pine wood mixed with smoke and animal fat. You realize it is the same scent that must have clung to everyone in that age. It was the perfume of survival. Later generations might call it primitive or unpleasant, but to you it smells like life. You wonder if those people ever thought of themselves as ancient, or if they simply existed from one day to the next, knowing only cold, hunger, and occasional joy. As the fire crackles, you hear dripping water from somewhere deep inside the cave. The sound echoes softly, rhythmic and steady. It reminds you of a heartbeat. It is easy to imagine that the earth itself breathes in these hidden chambers. Some myths from later cultures describe caves as mouths of the underworld or wombs of creation. Perhaps those ideas began in nights like this one, when people felt surrounded by darkness yet safe inside its hollow. A gust of wind rushes through the entrance, scattering sparks. You shield the flame with your body until it steadies again. The cold sneaks in, but only for a moment. You are learning, like your ancestors, how to balance the two elements. The living warmth of fire and the endless hunger of frost. Both must coexist. You lie back on your hide and listen. Outside, the storm continues its slow roar. Inside, the fire hums. Your heartbeat slows. For the first time, you let yourself feel a kind of peace. You have found shelter, and that simple act connects you to every human who has ever faced a winter night. The cave hums with ancient memory. Tomorrow, you will need to find food and strengthen the fire, but for now, you are safe. The snow can rage all it wants. The stone will hold, and the flame will live. You wake to the sound of the storm softening, a distant hum instead of a roar. The fire has burned low, glowing like a single heart in the dim cave. You stretch your limbs and feel the ache of muscles worked to exhaustion. The air tastes of smoke and damp stone. Outside, light filters through the snow like diluted milk. It is morning, though the sun hides behind clouds so thick they could be walls. You rise slowly, brushing frost from your hair, and step toward the cave mouth. The world is a blank page, pale and endless. You can no longer tell where the ground ends and the sky begins. The quiet is so complete that even your breath feels like an interruption. Somewhere far away, a bird calls, a lonely sound that seems to belong to another world. Fire saved your life through the night, but its hunger never rests. You kneel beside the embers, adding bits of bark and grass until the glow flares back to life. The flames lick upward, curling orange and gold. For prehistoric people, fire was more than warmth. It was memory, skill, and identity. According to archaeological evidence, some of the earliest hearths discovered in European caves date back more than 400,000 years. They were carefully maintained over long periods, suggesting that tending a flame was a communal task, a kind of ritual that bound people together. You hold your hands above the small blaze, palms open. The heat crawls back into your fingers. It is a fragile thing, this comfort, but it feels eternal. Most experts agree that learning to keep fire alive was the point where humanity truly began to shape nature, rather than only obey it. It turned fear into control, night into day. As the warmth grows stronger, you glance toward the ceiling. Dark smoke stains form faint patterns above the hearth. The stone seems to breathe, tiny droplets of condensed moisture running down its face. The sound of dripping water echoes softly, a rhythm that could almost be music. You think of how many fires must have burned here before yours, their light flickering over the same walls, their smoke curling into the same air, every spark a continuation of the last. You decide to step outside and search for dry wood. The wind greets you instantly, sharper now but calmer than before. The air bites your cheeks, yet the sky has softened into a muted grey. Snow still falls, but slower, lazy flakes that drift and spin. You pull your hood close and walk toward the line of trees half buried in white. The landscape feels like a dream where time has stopped. A curious fact emerges in your mind. Excavations from Ice Age sites show that people sometimes carried burning embers wrapped in moss or animal hide as they moved across frozen plains. It was their version of a portable lighter, a way to ensure that no journey ever began without fire. The ingenuity of such a simple act is humbling. You pick up a dry branch, feeling its weight, and imagine one of those travelers trudging through snow with a tiny bundle of glowing coals pressed to their chest like treasure. Not everyone agrees on when or where fire control became universal. Some researchers question whether the earliest evidence of hearths truly represents human activity or if it came from natural blazes caused by lightning. Others argue that mastery of fire spread gradually, through imitation and trade between groups. The truth may never be clear, but the impact is obvious. Without fire, the Ice Age would have been nothing but extinction. You collect what wood you can, stacking it under your arm. The forest creaks and groans around you. Trees bend slightly under the weight of snow. their branches snapping with soft cracks. Somewhere nearby, a fox moves through the drifts. Its fur is thick and pale, blending perfectly with the snow. You freeze, watching its elegant shape glide between shadows. It pauses, lifts its head, and looks straight at you. For a moment, the two of you share the same stillness, the same quiet respect for survival. Then it disappears, as silently as it arrived. You return to the cave, shaking the snow from your shoulders. The fire welcomes you with a faint hiss. You feed it the new branches and watch the flames leap higher, filling the cave with golden light. Shadows dance along the walls, long and fluid. In that moving light, you can almost see figures from long ago. Hunters sharpening spears, mothers soothing children, elders telling stories about stars and spirits. The fire has always been the stage for human imagination. One unusual detail uncovered by scientists involves the use of animal bones as fuel. In areas where wood was scarce, people burned bones, especially from large mammals. The marrow inside acted like oil, burning longer and hotter than dry wood. The smell must have been strange, heavy and oily, but it kept the cold away. You can almost picture it, the soft crackle and pop of fat igniting, the thick smoke curling upward while outside, the snow piled higher. You sit again, watching sparks drift into the air like tiny glowing insects. The flicker of light soothes you. Sleep presses at the edge of your mind, though you know you must stay alert. In the ancient world, rest came in small pieces, stolen between tasks. The mind of a survivor learned to half sleep, listening for danger even in dreams. Some archaeologists suggest that this constant alertness shaped early human brains, sharpening memory and instinct. Others think the opposite, that such tension led to short lives filled with exhaustion. You wonder which theory feels truer, then realize both might be right. The Ice Age did not reward comfort, but it taught balance. The fire crackles again. You reach for a piece of bark and throw it in. It bursts into a flare that lights the whole cave, and for a second you see something glimmer on the far wall. A pattern, faint but deliberate. It looks like a handprint, small and smudged, perhaps from another traveler long ago. You stand, stepping closer. The fingers are spread wide, the outline darkened with soot or pigment. You trace the air just above it, afraid to touch. Was it a mark of presence, a symbol, or simply a way of saying I was here? The scholars who study cave art still debate the meaning of these prints. Were they part of rituals or just spontaneous gestures of identity? No one can be certain. You lower your hand and sit again by the fire. Outside, the wind picks up for a moment, then fades. Inside, everything glows with that same quiet pulse of warmth. The small handprint lingers in your thoughts. It is both ordinary and sacred, proof that someone else endured the same storm, felt the same cold, and needed to leave a trace behind. As the day drifts toward twilight, you realize that fire and shelter are not separate things at all. They are both extensions of your will to live. You stir the embers gently, feeling the warmth rise to your face, and close your eyes. The cold will return tonight, sharper and crueler, but you have light now, and knowledge older than language. And that, you think, is enough. The fire hums softly behind you as twilight folds across the snowy plain. The light outside has turned to pale silver, soft but cold. You take a step beyond the mouth of the cave and draw in the air that tastes of pine, frost, and smoke. Your body no longer trembles the way it did the night before. You are adjusting, slowly, as every living thing does in the cold. The wilderness has stopped trying to kill you and started to test your patience instead. In the distance, the wind shifts and carries with it a sound that makes you stop. A low, deep howl moves through the valley, long and trembling. It rises, then fades. Another follows, closer this time. You listen, heart pounding lightly. Wolves, not the sleek, cautious animals of modern forests, but the larger, heavier ancestors that once ruled the tundra. Their calls are part warning, part song. You return to the cave entrance and crouch by the fire. The thought of wolves does not frighten you as much as it might have a day ago. Humans and wolves, it turns out, have a very old connection. Evidence from ancient burial sites in Central Asia shows that early people sometimes interred wolves or dogs beside them, suggesting a bond that was already spiritual as well as practical. According to researchers, this cooperation may have begun more than 30,000 years ago, when desperate hunters noticed that wolves could track prey better than any human. The relationship began with distance and slowly became partnership. You glance out again. The howls continue, weaving together like strands of sound. Somewhere out there, eyes are watching the faint orange glow from your cave. The wolves smell your fire, your skin, the smoke that clings to your clothing. They are curious, perhaps even respectful. They too have learned that fire means danger and warmth, life and death in equal measure. One peculiar finding from an old Siberian site tells of wolf pups raised in human settlements, not as pets but as alarm systems. They would bark or growl at approaching predators or strangers. It is strange to think that the first domesticated creature was not meant for affection, but for survival. Yet affection surely followed, as it always does. You imagine someone, long ago, running their hand through thick fur, sharing body heat with an animal that had once been an enemy. The wind deepens and the wolves go silent. The silence feels almost louder than their song. You look into the fire and think about how companionship shapes endurance. For prehistoric people, survival was rarely solitary. There was always the group, the warmth of others, the shared rhythm of breathing in a cramped shelter. Togetherness was not optional. It was the difference between life and extinction. Most experts agree that early humans slept in close circles, sometimes pressed together with animals for warmth. Their scent, their body heat, even their breath helped keep frostbite away. A strange scent drifts in from the outside, something wild, sharp, and musky. You tense for a moment, but it passes. The cave protects you. The rock itself holds a kind of ancient authority, sheltering countless lives before yours. When storms tore through the world above, the earth always opened small pockets of mercy for the creatures who knew how to find them. You pull your fur cloak tighter and lie down near the fire. The flickering light paints the ceiling in amber waves. Shadows dance across your hands, your knees, the edges of the cave wall. The sound of crackling wood becomes hypnotic. It feels almost alive, breathing in time with you. You think about how fire and animal life became the twin teachers of humankind. One gave warmth, the other movement. One taught patience, the other strategy. Without both, there would be no survival. There is an odd theory, whispered among some archaeologists, that the earliest wolves were drawn to human camps not by food scraps but by the sound of singing. The rhythm of voices around a fire might have resembled pack communication, encouraging curiosity rather than fear. It is a romantic idea, unproven, but beautiful. Some researchers dismiss it, claiming it is wishful thinking dressed as science. Still, the thought lingers that friendship may have begun not with a meal, but with music. You shift closer to the flames and close your eyes for a moment. Behind your eyelids, you see faint shapes moving in the dark, half memory and half imagination. The wolves from the valley stand at the edge of the firelight. You can almost feel their gaze. One steps forward, its coat glimmering in shades of silver and grey. You do not move. It lowers its head, exhales a soft cloud of steam, and then turns back toward the snow. The vision fades when you open your eyes again. Only the storm remains, whispering faintly beyond the cave. The fire pops. You take another piece of wood and feed it to the flames. The warmth returns instantly, wrapping around you like a blanket. In that quiet, you think about the unspoken rules of this frozen world. Everything alive depends on something else. The hunters follow herds, the wolves follow hunters, the fire follows breath. And still, everything must balance, as if the wilderness itself keeps score. Near the far end of the cave, you find another reminder of that balance. Bones, long and pale, stacked in a corner. You pick one up. It is smooth, polished by handling. You run your fingers along its edge and notice faint carvings marks that might be decoration or counting. Some specialists believe these tally marks recorded hunting successes or lunar cycles. Others think they were early attempts at storytelling. The disagreement continues because the bones refuse to explain themselves. The storm begins to ease again. The wind quiets, leaving only the faint rustle of snow sliding down from ledges above. Outside, the night glows faintly under a swollen moon hidden behind cloud. You listen to the deep silence and realize that you no longer feel fear. The cold is still there, the animals are still out there, but you belong to this place now. The wild no longer seems cruel, it simply exists like you do. You lie down beside the fire and wrap yourself in fur. Your eyes grow heavy. Somewhere beyond hearing, wolves begin to sing again. Not threatening this time, but soft, almost mournful. The notes stretch and blend with the wind until they sound like a lullaby. You imagine the same song drifting across other valleys, carrying comfort to strangers who will never meet. The flames dim to red coals. You drift towards sleep. The last sound you hear a single breath of wind and the distant rhythm of paws moving across snow. The bond between human and animal has already begun, fragile and eternal. The night has passed. The storm has left behind a silence so heavy it feels like a weight pressing on the world. You open your eyes and see light pouring through the cave entrance, cold and brilliant, reflected from endless snow. The air inside is warmer now, thick with the scent of ashes and smoke. The fire has burned low, but a few embers still glow faintly beneath a layer of white ash. You stretch your arms and feel the stiffness of sleep fade from your limbs. Outside, the snow sparkles like ground-up glass. The world is reborn, bright but harsh. You step into it slowly, letting your eyes adjust to the glare. The air is still, but every sound travels far. The creak of trees, the faint crunch of your boots, the whisper of your breath. It is beautiful, but beauty here is always sharp-edged. The cold does not care that you survived another night. It waits for a single mistake. You know that the cave alone will not keep you alive forever. Shelter is only half the battle. The other half is comfort, or at least a version of it that your ancestors could build with their hands. People of the Ice Age learned to shape the ground itself into something that could cradle them through the long nights. According to evidence found in northern Europe, early humans built bedding layers of dried moss, grass, and animal hides, raised slightly from the frozen ground to avoid dampness. These primitive mattresses were often renewed each season, a careful ritual of cleaning and rebuilding. You kneel beside the fire pit and begin to plan your own resting place. The cave floor is uneven, hard and unforgiving. You gather dried grass from a bundle near the wall and spread it out. It smells faintly sweet, like summer trapped in memory. You add furs over it, pressing them flat with your hands. The touch of hide against skin feels soft and real in this barren world. It may surprise you to know that traces of ancient bedding have actually survived. Archaeologists working in South Africa found layers of woven plant fibers dating back tens of thousands of years. The fibers contain traces of aromatic leaves, likely used to repel insects. Imagine that people living through brutal winters still took time to make their sleeping space smell pleasant. Comfort and practicality intertwined even when survival was fragile. As you work, you think about the ingenuity hidden in these small acts. A bed in the Ice Age was not luxury, it was a strategy. Lying directly on the ground meant losing heat faster than fire could replace it. A layer of insulation made the difference between deep rest and slow freezing. Most researchers agree that the ability to design living spaces, even on such a small scale, marked a shift in human awareness. It meant people were no longer just reacting to nature. They were shaping it, one leaf and one hide at a time. You smooth the bedding and lie down for a test. The surface cradles your weight softly. Your back no longer feels the cold stone beneath. You close your eyes and breathe in the scent of grass, smoke, and fur. For a moment, you can almost forget the danger outside. The wind shifts and carries in a faint smell of animal. You sit up and glance toward the cave entrance. Tracks lead across the snow, small and precise. Perhaps a hare, maybe a fox. It reminds you that you are not alone. Everything in this wilderness moves according to its own quiet rhythm. You remember hearing once that some prehistoric campsites show layers of burned bedding, replaced season after season. The old grass would be set on fire to kill pests and renew the space before a new layer was added. It was a simple act of hygiene that feels almost modern. Some scientists debate whether this practice was deliberate or accidental, since fire often spread unpredictably. Still, the consistency of evidence across sites suggests purpose. Even here, tens of thousands of years ago, people cared about cleanliness. A soft chuckle escapes you. Civilization did not begin with walls or cities. It began with someone deciding that sleep should be a little less miserable. You adjust the hides again, then sit cross-legged near the fire. The smoke rises in lazy ribbons toward the ceiling. The warmth feels deeper now that you have a place to rest. You think about how the body remembers comfort. Once you find it, even briefly, it becomes impossible to forget. Maybe that is how progress began, one small act of refusal against discomfort, multiplied through generations. You step outside to gather more grass and moss for padding. The snow crunches beneath your feet. You find a patch of tall, brittle stems near a frozen stream. The plants bend easily, releasing a faint, earthy smell. You gather them in bundles, shaking off the snow. Beneath the white crust, the earth feels soft, alive, even in winter. You dig up a few clumps of moss and feel the moisture on your fingertips. The sensation is grounding, a reminder that life continues quietly below the frost. On your way back, you notice a strange shape near a boulder, a hollow lined with snow and fur. An old burrow, perhaps, once used by an animal to survive the same storm. You crouch and peer inside. The space is narrow but dry. For a fleeting moment, you imagine what it would be like to curl up inside, pressed into warmth by instinct alone. Some early humans did just that, digging into snowbanks to create shelters insulated by air pockets. It sounds absurd, but snow, when used correctly, can keep warmth inside. Experiments show that such shelters can hold temperatures around freezing even when the air outside drops far lower. You smile at the irony. The same element that kills can also protect. Survival is often about contradiction. You carry your bundles back to the cave and finish arranging your bed. The space feels transformed now, almost homelike. The firelight makes the furs glow in shades of amber and brown. You lie down again and pull a hide over your shoulders. The warmth rises from below, soft and steady. Outside, snowflakes drift past the entrance like drifting sparks. As you rest, a question lingers in your mind. Were those ancient people ever comfortable enough to dream? Or was every night a long stretch of half-sleep broken by fear? Some scientists think the constant stress shaped their imagination, turning survival into storytelling. When the body could not rest, the mind learned to wander. Perhaps this is how myths began, born in the space between exhaustion and hope. You turn on your side, feeling the weight of fur against your chest. The fire crackles, gentle and steady. You are no longer just surviving. You are learning the ancient art of rest. The bed beneath you feels like a promise, soft against the hard face of the Ice Age. The storm outside may rage again, but tonight you have built comfort out of grass and courage, and that, more than anything, makes you human. The fire whispers behind you as you wake, stretching your arms and feeling the pleasant stiffness that comes after real sleep. The bedding beneath you still holds the faint warmth of your body, and for the first time since the storm began, you feel almost rested. The air in the cave is cool, but not biting. You listen for the wind outside. It has softened into a low sigh, brushing snow from the trees. You run a hand along the furs covering you, tracing the rough seams where hide meets hide. The stitching is simple but strong. It took time to sew these together, and every knot and thread speaks of patience. Prehistoric people were not just hunters, they were artisans of necessity. Evidence from Ice Age sites shows that even the earliest humans used bone needles and sinew thread to make fitted clothing. These garments were not random scraps, but carefully designed protection against freezing winds. Most researchers agree that the invention of sewing was as important as fire in the struggle for survival. You rise and examine your coat, its thick layers of reindeer hide and the faint scent of smoke that clings to it. The outer surface is stiff and water-resistant, the inner side soft and lined with fur. This was engineering before anyone had words for it. According to archaeological studies, the people of the Arctic adapted quickly, choosing hides from animals that shed water and retained heat. Each layer had a purpose: to trap warmth, deflect snow, or wick away moisture. You pick up a strip of sinew and roll it between your fingers. It feels like fine thread, elastic but strong. Hunters would stretch and dry the tendons of animals, slicing them into thin cords that could be used for sewing or binding. It may seem simple, but this small innovation changed everything. Some anthropologists suggest that well-made clothing allowed humans to migrate into colder regions long before other species could. In a sense, the needle extended the limits of the human body. A small smile tugs at your lips. It is strange to think that your coat is the direct descendant of those early designs. Every modern jacket, every pair of winter boots, carries that ancient wisdom. While you work to tighten the seams of your gloves, you think about how personal clothing must have been back then. Each piece was shaped by hand, tailored to the body of the wearer. It was not fashion, it was identity. A well-made coat meant survival, and survival meant pride. There are findings from burial sites where people were buried in their best garments, decorated with beads made of bone and ivory. It suggests that even in death, they carried the memory of their craft. You thread the sinew through the small eye of a bone needle. The light from the fire catches the curve of the tool, smooth and polished from years of use. You imagine someone, perhaps a mother or a hunter, sitting by the fire long ago performing the same motion. Sewing in the Ice Age was not just work, it was ritual. The slow rhythm of pulling thread through hide could calm the mind, a kind of meditation against the endless cold. An odd piece of research once suggested that some groups used animal fat mixed with ash as a kind of waterproofing for clothing. The mixture would be rubbed into the hides, creating a seal that repelled water. It must have smelled strange, but it worked. Early humans learned to combine practicality with intuition long before chemistry existed as a science. You pause, testing the repaired glove by pulling it snug over your fingers. The fit is tight, warm, and reassuring. Outside, the snow gleams in pale light. The storm has left behind a stillness so deep that you can hear the faint crack of ice shifting beneath the surface of a distant stream. You step out into the cold, your new repairs shielding you from the chill. The reindeer hide creaks softly as you move, and the fur brushes your neck like a whisper. A thought crosses your mind. How did people learn what materials worked best? Some researchers believe they watched animals closely. By observing how certain creatures survived the winter, they copied nature's designs. The thick fur of a mammoth, the oily feathers of waterfowl, the layered skins of seals all became lessons in insulation. Other scholars argue that trial and error taught the same lessons, one painful mistake at a time. The truth probably lies somewhere between observation and desperation. You walk toward the tree line, boots sinking slightly into the snow. Each step leaves a clear print. The soles are wrapped in hide, tied with strips of sinew, and under the fur you have added a layer of dry moss for padding. The texture cushions your feet and keeps them from freezing. The practice of using plant fibers in footwear has been confirmed by archaeological finds in mountain regions, where fragments of woven grass shoes have been preserved in ice. These were the earliest boots, soft but brilliant in design. A cold gust rises and brushes your cheek. You pull your hood tighter, feeling the soft fur close around your face. It is strange, but comforting, to realize that everything you wear once belonged to another life. The animal's warmth continues through you, its purpose renewed. Many early cultures viewed this exchange as sacred. According to interpretations of cave art and burial rituals, people believed that wearing the skin of an animal allowed its spirit to protect them. Some modern scientists see this as early animism, the belief that all things possess a soul. Whether spiritual or practical, the connection feels genuine. You pause at the edge of the clearing and watch your breath drift upward in faint clouds. The sky is pale, the sun hidden behind gauzy layers of cloud. The world feels like a painting made of silence. In moments like this, you understand why survival was not only physical, but emotional. People needed symbols, beliefs, and rituals to make sense of the cold. A coat might keep you alive, but a sense of meaning kept you human. You turn back toward the cave. The smoke from your fire drifts lazily into the open air. The reindeer hide coat hugs your shoulders. The gloves fit perfectly, and your boots carry you with ease. Every piece of your clothing feels like armor, not against battle but against emptiness. Inside, you hang your coat near the fire to dry and sit down on your bedding. The warmth spreads up your legs as you rest. You realize how much care it takes to stay alive in this place. Every stitch, every thread, every spark of fire is a choice to endure. The cave hums softly with heat and shadow. You close your eyes and imagine others doing the same long ago, sewing, wrapping themselves in fur, whispering stories as the snow fell outside. In the deep rhythm of those gestures, the human spirit survived and grew stronger. The wind has quieted, but its voice still lingers in the distance, low and restless. You sit near the fire, listening. It comes and goes in soft breaths, like an animal pacing beyond sight. The air in the cave feels heavy with silence, broken only by the occasional pop of burning wood. You stare at the entrance, where pale light filters through drifting snow. Outside, the world waits, watchful and alive. You close your eyes and let your hearing stretch outward. At first, there is nothing. Then slowly, small sounds begin to emerge. The faint crack of ice shifting on a distant river, the dull thud of snow falling from a branch, the whisper of air curling through the cave mouth. In the prehistoric world, people survived by listening. Long before compasses or tools of metal, the ear was the first instrument. You think about how early humans must have mapped danger through sound, how each creak or sigh told them what the wind carried and where safety lay. According to archaeological records, people living during the Ice Age often built their camps in places where sound could travel. Valleys with good echo, cliff shelters that caught the voice of the wind, even caves like this one, where every noise amplified. It helped them hear predators before they arrived. The choice of shelter was not random. It was strategy written in sound waves. You turn your head slightly and listen again. The storm that once screamed across the hills now murmurs softly, almost friendly. Some researchers suggest that this sensitivity to natural noise sharpened the human brain, helping early people interpret subtle shifts in environment. It might have been the beginning of intuition itself, the mind's ability to understand before reason. Others believe it was simply adaptation, a reflex built by fear and necessity. Both ideas hold truth, and both make you feel connected to something ancient in your own senses. The cave amplifies every movement. When you shift your feet, the echoes stretch out like ripples in a pond. The sound feels larger than you, as if the stone itself listens and replies. You realize that this place, with all its cold and stillness, is not empty. It hums with life at a frequency your eyes cannot see. You rise and walk slowly toward the entrance. Snow has gathered in soft drifts outside, untouched since the night before. The landscape glows faintly blue under a sky of pale grey. You hear the faint crunch beneath your boots, that delicate, satisfying sound of crusted snow giving way. It is a reminder that even silence has texture. You look up and see a bird circling high above, a black dot against the blankness. Its wings beat slowly, steady and patient. Perhaps it hunts for movement, for life beneath the snow. You wonder how it survives in this frozen world, and somehow that thought comforts you. Life finds a way, even here. It is strange, but your hearing seems sharper in the cold. Every detail stands out. The crackle of ice beneath your boots, the faint rustle of fur as you move, the soft pulse of your own heartbeat. Some scientists believe that the clarity of sound in freezing temperatures is not an illusion. Cold air carries vibrations differently, making noises travel farther and more distinctly. The Ice Age, for all its cruelty, must have sounded crystal clear. You return inside the cave and sit again. The firelight flickers over the walls, revealing faint marks that you had not noticed before. They are scratches, shallow but deliberate, forming patterns that resemble waves or wind lines. You trace them with your fingers and feel the grooves. Maybe they were decorations, or maybe they represented the sound of the wind itself. It would not be surprising. Early humans often recorded what they heard as well as what they saw. Music and art began not with vision, but with rhythm. An unusual discovery supports that idea. In a cave in Germany, archaeologists found a flute carved from vulture bone, over 30,000 years old. It could play a full scale. That means people living in conditions like these were already making melodies, perhaps imitating the wind, perhaps calming their minds through song. The idea that someone could sit by a fire in a storm like this and make music instead of despair feels almost miraculous. You pick up a thin stick and tap it lightly on the stone floor, matching the rhythm of your heartbeat. The sound is small, but it fills the space. Tap, pause, tap. You hum softly under your breath, nothing distinct, only the rise and fall of tone. The cave seems to join in, the echoes stretching each note into something larger. It is easy to imagine your ancestors doing the same. Sound would have been both a comfort and a warning, a language older than speech. Some historians think that early humans developed vocal communication through shared listening. They had to interpret noises together to survive as a group. Others argue that language came later, born from cooperation around the fire. The debate continues, but both possibilities suggest that sound shaped thought long before writing ever appeared. You stop tapping and let the cave fall silent again. The fire crackles softly, filling the void. You realize that the more you listen, the more alive the silence becomes. It breathes, like an invisible animal resting near you. Outside, the wind rises again for a moment, brushing past the cave like a hand. You close your eyes and imagine you can hear its story, whispered in a language of cold and motion. It speaks of mountains, of rivers frozen mid-flow, of the endless migration of stars across a sky that never changes. You open your eyes and take a slow breath. The sound fades into distance. The fire glows brighter now, fed by your earlier work. You lie back on your bedding and stare at the ceiling. The echoes of the world seem to linger in your ears, even as you grow drowsy. In this moment, you understand why ancient people listened so carefully. The world was their teacher, and every gust of wind, every animal cry, every drop of water held a lesson. You close your eyes and let the rhythm of the cave lull you. The sound of the storm becomes a lullaby again, the same voice that once threatened, now offering rest. The wilderness is no longer something to fear, it is something to understand. Sleep comes gently, wrapped in sound and silence both. The crackling of the fire becomes the first sound you notice as you drift between sleep and waking. Its rhythm is steady, hypnotic, a slow breathing that fills the darkness. You blink, and the faint light of dawn glows at the edge of the cave. The storm has passed completely now. The air feels lighter, and the snow outside glimmers with a faint gold hue. You pull the fur closer around your shoulders and watch the firelight dance on the cave walls. Shadows move across the stone like living things. The flames remind you of dreams, They twist and shimmer, changing shape with every breath of air. It is easy to see faces in them, or animals, or the outlines of distant memories. You wonder if the people who once lived here saw the same illusions. Perhaps they whispered to the fire as if it could answer. In a way, it did. Light made their thoughts visible, and the darkness turned imagination into story. Archaeological evidence suggests that prehistoric people spent long nights staring into flames. Some scientists believe this habit played a role in human evolution, helping our ancestors develop patience and imagination. Firelight offered safety, but it also gave the mind space to wander. Staring into a moving flame slows the heartbeat, eases the breath, and invites visions. The campfire may have been the first theatre, the first temple, and the first dream. You lean closer to the warmth, feeling it brush your face. The colors shift from orange to deep red, then to a faint blue at the edges. The air smells of resin and smoke. Your thoughts start to drift. The flicker of light makes shapes appear on the walls, and for a moment you see what might be figures, dancing or hunting. They fade when you blink, but the image lingers. In caves across the world, traces of such visions remain. Handprints, animal outlines, lines that spiral like the paths of stars. The most famous sites, in France and Spain, show paintings made with mineral pigments mixed with animal fat. Some of them are tens of thousands of years old. Their colors still glow when touched by light, as if the artists just finished their work. Most scholars agree that these images were not random decoration. They were born from dreams, from the half-conscious moments between sleep and waking, when the fire and the mind blur together. You shift your weight, lying back on your bedding, and let your eyes follow the shadows that ripple across the ceiling. They move like spirits, like fragments of memory. The people of that time did not separate the physical from the spiritual. A dream could be as real as hunger. When they closed their eyes beside the fire, they entered another world, one made of stories. One curious idea, proposed by a few researchers, is that these dreams may have served as early problem-solving tools. In a world of survival, dreams could offer visions of where to hunt or what dangers to avoid. It sounds mystical, but there is logic in it. The human brain, even then, searched for patterns in chaos. If a dream led to food or safety, it became truth. If it failed, it was forgotten. You glance at the wall again. The smoke leaves streaks that almost look deliberate, like drawings forming by accident. You pick up a stick and trace through the soot, making a rough outline of a reindeer. The motion feels natural, effortless. The drawing is crude, but it captures something alive. You smile faintly, realizing how easy it would be to fill this cave with images. It is no wonder the ancient ones did the same. They must have felt the same urge to record what lived inside their minds. Not everyone agrees on why they painted. Some believe the art was part of hunting rituals meant to summon success. Others think it was a way to teach children about animals or territory. A few even argue that it was a kind of ancient entertainment, a shared story told through light and movement. The argument continues, and perhaps it always will, because the artists left no words, only silence and pigment. You add another line to your reindeer, then laugh softly. The sound echoes faintly, mixing with the fire's crackle. For a moment, you can imagine that the old artists are listening. The cave seems to approve, its air growing warmer around you. You set the stick down and stare at your work. It looks nothing like the real animal, but it feels right. Maybe that was the point. Art was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to make people feel less alone. The warmth of the fire starts to lull you again. You close your eyes, and the images behind your lids come alive. You see snow falling slowly, but this time it glows with faint blue light. You see shapes of people moving through the storm, wrapped in fur and carrying torches. They walk without fear, their faces calm. The flames in their hands pulse like stars. You feel as though you are among them, moving in rhythm with their breath. A spark snaps in the fire and pulls you back. The cave ceiling glows faintly orange again. You exhale slowly, realizing how close the line is between waking and dreaming. The prehistoric world did not separate those states the way modern people do. Sleep, vision, and ritual often merged. When someone dreamed of an animal, it might become part of the next hunt or the next song. When they saw a shadow flicker like a face, it could turn into a spirit story. A small pile of charred sticks lies beside the hearth. You pick one up and hold it close to the flame. The tip glows red for a second before fading. It would make a perfect tool for drawing. You press it to the wall beside your crude reindeer and add a line of dots, like falling snow. The scent of burnt wood fills the air. You smile, thinking how strange it is that the same simple act could connect you to people who lived 30 millennia before. Fire, art, and imagination still burn in the same rhythm. Outside, the light shifts. The sun has climbed higher, turning the snow bright enough to hurt your eyes. You can feel the warmth of it even from inside the cave. The storm is gone, but its memory lingers in the silence. You stretch and stand, brushing ashes from your hands. Your stomach growls softly. It is time to think about food, but for now, you linger near the drawings. You trace your fingers over the lines once more, then lean back to look at them in the flickering light. The shapes seem to move, to breathe. You realize that what you have created is not just an image, but a reflection of thought itself. The first art was not decoration. It was survival for the mind, a way to hold on to meaning when the world outside was only snow and shadow. You smile again softly. The fire crackles. Outside, the cold sun glows over the white horizon, and inside, your tiny creation glows like memory. The day drifts quietly, the air clear and still, the snow bright enough to make your eyes water. You stand at the entrance of the cave, squinting into the frozen light. The wind no longer screams. It whispers softly through the valley, as if tired from its own violence. The world looks peaceful, but hunger is a sharper enemy than cold. You feel it now, a slow gnawing inside your stomach, steady and patient. You tighten your belt, made of hide, and step into the snow. Each step sinks with a soft crunch. The air burns your lungs, but your body has learned the rhythm of this place. You move carefully, scanning the ground for tracks. Food is never guaranteed here, yet those who survived the Ice Age were masters of patience. They hunted in silence, moved with the wind, and understood that every meal was a negotiation with nature, not a victory over it. Archaeological discoveries suggest that prehistoric people used every part of an animal they killed: meat, bone, sinew, hide, even the fat clinging to the organs. There was no waste. According to evidence found in frozen tundra sites, hunters stored meat beneath the snow, using it like a natural refrigerator. It was not luxury. It was intelligence born from hardship. You crouch, imagining the process. The thought of frozen meat waiting for you beneath the ground feels strangely comforting. You find old tracks, faint but visible. They belong to reindeer, judging by their narrow shape and spacing. You follow them slowly, moving toward the sparse trees that border the plain. Your breath leaves thin clouds that vanish instantly. The world feels timeless, caught between stillness and motion. It might surprise you to know that prehistoric hunters sometimes followed herds for days, even weeks. They did not chase, they shadowed. The goal was endurance, not speed. Many experts believe this practice, called persistence hunting, allowed humans to wear down larger prey. The hunters would track animals across long distances until exhaustion made the creatures collapse. It required knowledge of wind, terrain, and instinct, and it bound humans to the landscape in ways few modern people could imagine. You kneel and touch the snow where the prints deepen. The edges are slightly melted, meaning the herd passed recently. A shiver of hope stirs in your chest. You continue, step by step, until the ground slopes downward into a small hollow. The air smells faintly of earth and musk. You crouch, ears alert, and there it is. A sound, faint but distinct, the soft snort of an animal. You stay still, barely breathing. Through the curtain of snow-dusted branches, you see movement brown shapes against white, low heads digging through the snow for grass. Reindeer, smaller than the ones that live in modern northern lands, but strong and quick. Your pulse quickens. You reach for your spear, carved from ash wood with a sharp stone point tied by sinew. The weapon feels both crude and sacred, an extension of your own will. According to remains found in Ice Age camps, such tools were often made during long winter nights. The hunters carved by firelight, shaping each groove carefully. Many of the spears show patterns etched along their shafts, not purely decorative, but possibly meant to guide grip or signify ownership. Each weapon carried its maker's identity, a reminder that survival was not just collective, but personal. You move slowly, crouching behind a tree. Your breath fogs in front of you, and you exhale through your nose to stay quiet. The herd is small, perhaps 4 or 5 animals. They dig with their hooves, uncovering frozen plants. You wait, muscles tense but calm. The silence stretches until the world feels like it has stopped turning. Then, movement. One reindeer lifts its head, ears twitching, eyes searching the air. You freeze completely, willing your heartbeat to slow. The animal stares for a long moment before lowering its head again. You raise your arms slightly, adjust your footing, and breathe out. Then you throw. The spear cuts through the air with a faint hiss. A sharp sound follows, then chaos. The herd bolts, snow exploding beneath their hooves. One animal stumbles, its leg wounded, and disappears into the trees. You sprint forward, lungs burning, following the trail of red that dots the snow. Each drop glows against the white, leading you onward. The chase feels endless, yet you move as if guided by instinct older than thought. The forest closes around you. The smell of iron and pine fills your nose. Finally, you find the reindeer collapsed beside a fallen log, its breath shallow, its eyes wide. You approach slowly, whispering something you do not fully understand, a sound of respect. You kneel beside it and press your hand against its flank. The body is warm, trembling. You do what must be done, quickly and without cruelty. When the silence returns, it feels heavier than before. The reindeer lies still, its breath gone. Steam rises from its wound, disappearing into the cold air. You stay beside it for a moment, letting your own breathing slow. In the Ice Age, death was not distant or abstract. It was a constant companion, a trade of life for life. Many ancient burial sites show offerings of meat or bone tools placed with the dead, gestures of gratitude or apology to the world that sustained them. You work carefully, as your ancestors did, cutting with your stone blade. The snow drinks the heat from the body, preserving the meat. You wrap what you can carry in hide, and mark the rest beneath a mound of snow. The hide will become another layer for your bedding. The bones will serve as tools. Nothing will be wasted. This cycle of use and renewal is what allowed humans to endure when so many other species vanished. You make your way back to the cave as the light fades. Your breath comes in long, visible sighs. The sky glows pink near the horizon, and the air hums with quiet stillness. You realize how full the silence feels after the noise of the hunt. Each sound now seems precious. The crunch of your boots, the rustle of your burden, the whisper of wind through bare trees. When you reach the cave, the fire is waiting. You feed it new wood and watch the flames rise eagerly. The smell of smoke mingles with the scent of fresh meat. You set a small piece to cook, holding it over the flame with a stick. The fat drips and hisses. The aroma fills the space, rich and primal. As you eat, the taste feels almost sacred. The salt of the animal, the smoke of the wood, the faint metallic tang of survival. Some researchers suggest that such moments of shared food became the foundation of early social bonds. Around a fire, hunger turned into ritual, and ritual turned into story. Perhaps that is how memory began. You chew slowly, eyes half closed, feeling warmth spread from your stomach through your limbs. The fire crackles, The snow outside glows faintly blue, and the air is calm again. In this small circle of light, the wilderness feels far away. You have eaten, you have lived, and the storm no longer frightens you. The cave smells of smoke and cooked meat, a comforting haze that lingers long after your meal. You lean back against the stone wall, feeling warmth seep through your skin. The storm has faded into memory now, but the air outside still carries a cold edge that warns it will return. For the moment, though, everything is still. The fire burns quietly, its orange light reflecting off the fur of your clothing. As you sit there, full and tired, a sense of calm spreads through you. It is not the luxury of comfort, but the peace that follows survival. The cold has not won. Hunger has been silenced. And for the first time you begin to feel something close to belonging. You are not just existing in this frozen wilderness. You are becoming part of it. The sound of soft footsteps behind you breaks the silence. You turn, startled, before realizing it is one of your own tribe. Her face glows faintly in the firelight, cheeks flushed red from the cold. She smiles without speaking, holding out a handful of snow for melting. You take it, place it in a shallow bone cup near the flames, and watch the ice turn slowly to water. The warmth of companionship fills the cave. Soon, others join. They move quietly, wrapping themselves in furs, shaking snow from their shoulders. Their breath mingles with the smoke, and for a moment the air feels alive with movement. These are your people, bound together not by blood alone but by endurance. It is easy to forget how small the groups were in those days. Most experts believe that Ice Age tribes rarely exceeded 20 or 30 individuals. Too many mouths would drain resources. Too few would invite loneliness and danger. You pass the cup of melted water to the woman beside you. She nods, murmuring thanks in a language that exists only in sound and gesture. Her voice is low, soft, almost like the wind whispering through grass. Across from you, another member of the tribe begins to hum, a simple, repetitive tune that carries no words. The rhythm of it feels old, like something the earth itself remembers. Some researchers think that these small social moments were the seed of civilization. Shared meals, shared warmth, shared sound. In such spaces, trust was built one gesture at a time. You watch as the group settles around the fire. Someone adds more wood, another cuts meat into smaller pieces. The smell fills the air again, thick and rich. Children curl up beside their parents, faces hidden in fur. You can almost hear their tiny breaths above the fire's murmur. One of the elders begins to speak. His voice is raspy but steady, carrying authority earned through many winters. He tells a story about the first snow, about how the sky and the earth once touched and froze together. His words rise and fall in rhythm with the flames. You do not understand every detail, but the meaning is clear. The story is a promise that even the worst storms will pass. It is a song of endurance disguised as a tale. Archaeological studies show that storytelling may have been as vital to survival as fire itself. It preserved memory, teaching new generations what to fear, what to follow, and what to hope for. In some ancient sites, patterns of hearths and sleeping areas suggest that communities gathered at night in circles, listening to the oldest members. The warmth of fire became the warmth of language. You glance around and see the faces lit by firelight. Each one is marked by the same exhaustion and quiet determination. You wonder what they dream of when they sleep. Perhaps they dream of summer, or of animals running through fields without snow. Perhaps they dream of peace. The elder's story shifts into a kind of chant, slow and rhythmic. The sound fills the cave, echoing softly against the walls. You feel it vibrate in your chest. The others begin to tap their hands lightly against their knees, keeping time. The music builds slowly, simple but powerful. It is not celebration exactly, it is connection. An interesting discovery from archaeological digs in Central Europe shows that Ice Age dwellers often used hollow bones and stones to create percussion sounds. They may have used rhythm as communication or ritual, perhaps to mimic the heartbeat of the earth. Some scientists think such sounds helped people coordinate movement during hunting or shared labor. Others see it as an early form of meditation, a way to steady the mind during hardship. Whatever the purpose, the pattern of sound feels timeless. You close your eyes and let the rhythm sink in. The firelight flickers through your eyelids, pulsing with each beat. For a few moments, you are not in the cave. You're in the center of something larger, a living circle of sound and warmth. The feeling is almost holy, though the word has not yet been invented. The chant fades slowly, like snow melting under sunlight. Silence fills the cave again, soft and peaceful. The elder nods once, satisfied. The others smile faintly, some already curling up to sleep. The air grows thick with the scent of furs and ash. You realize that warmth is not just fire or food, it is also this, the shared breath of those who choose to survive together. You adjust your bedding closer to the flames and watch as the group settles. One of the younger hunters lies near the entrance, keeping watch. The rest drift towards sleep, their breathing deep and even. The woman who brought the snow is beside you, her hand resting near yours. You hear her whisper something too quiet to understand, but the tone carries comfort. You close your eyes. The warmth of the fire and the nearness of others blend into a single sensation. Outside, the snow falls again, soft but steady. The storm will return, as it always does, but inside this cave, life endures. In this fragile circle of firelight, you begin to understand something profound. Survival is not only the act of staying alive, but the art of staying together. The cave is quiet except for the faint crackle of the fire and the slow rhythm of breathing. Around you, the tribe sleeps in tangled furs, their faces turned toward the warmth. You lie awake, eyes open, listening to the soft harmony of life. The air smells of smoke, animal hide, and faint salt from melted snow. Outside, the storm has grown calm again, but its memory hums in the distance like a sleeping beast. You rise carefully, stepping over the others, and move toward the entrance. The snow reflects the moonlight in a silver glow, bright enough to see without fire. The night feels endless, yet gentle. Your footprints are the only marks on the ground. You pause at the edge of the cave, feeling the wind slide across your face. It is cold enough to sting, but not cruel. This is your world now, cold and alive, filled with both silence and whispers. Behind you, someone stirs. The young hunter who took the first watch raises his head. His eyes are half closed but alert. You nod to him, and he nods back. A simple exchange, yet it holds the weight of trust. It is his turn to rest. You take the watch instead. Keeping watch is a ritual as old as fear itself. Archaeological studies of ancient camps show sleeping circles arranged with clear sight lines toward cave mouths or open plains. The position of each sleeper was deliberate, forming layers of safety. The youngest and oldest often slept deepest in the center, while the strongest rested near the edge. Those who watched did not only guard against predators but also kept the fire alive. In a sense, the night watch was humanity's first organized system of protection. You sit near the cave mouth, letting your eyes adjust to the dark. The wind moves softly through the trees, carrying faint scents, pine resin, frost, and distant musk. Somewhere far off, a branch cracks. The sound echoes lightly across the snow. You listen, heart steady, and recognize it as harmless, perhaps just the weight of ice shifting. Every noise has meaning out here, and over time you have learned to tell comfort from danger by sound alone. According to evidence found in old burial sites, some groups may have believed the watchers carried a sacred duty. They were not just guards but dream keepers, staying awake to ensure the safety of others' spirits while they slept. It may sound poetic, yet in the dark, when you feel the weight of silence pressing around you, the idea feels right. Someone must keep the world turning while others dream. You turn to look at your companions. They are huddled together in sleep, wrapped in layers of fur and hide. The elder's face is calm, illuminated by the faint orange glow of dying embers. The woman beside him murmurs softly, her lips moving as if speaking to someone unseen. Children shift in their sleep, their breaths small clouds in the cold air. Watching them, you feel both fragile and strong. Fragile because life is temporary, strong because even in this frozen wilderness, it continues. You add more wood to the fire. Sparks rise and fade into the shadows above. The flame grows brighter, pushing back the cold. For a moment, the walls seem to flicker with movement. Your eyes catch faint marks again, handprints and old soot lines. You imagine the others who once kept watch here, their thoughts probably the same as yours. Stay awake, stay alive, do not let the dark win. A strange habit recorded in some early ethnographic notes suggests that watchkeepers sometimes spoke to the fire as if it were alive. They whispered short phrases or songs to keep themselves alert. You decide to try it. You hum softly, a tune with no beginning or end. The sound bounces against the stone and returns to you, slightly distorted as if the cave hums back. It keeps your mind steady. Hours pass, though time feels meaningless. The moon drifts slowly across the sky, sliding behind thin clouds. You keep the fire alive, feeding it in careful intervals. Each time the flames rise, shadows of antlers and figures seem to leap across the walls. Perhaps imagination fills the spaces where silence grows too deep. Some researchers think that long nights like this shaped early religion. Watching fire flicker through darkness may have given rise to the belief that unseen forces lived in the flames. It was not superstition born of ignorance, but an attempt to understand beauty and danger at once. Fire was both protector and destroyer, a paradox that mirrored life itself. You think about that as you stare into the flames. The colors shift from gold to crimson, from crimson to deep blue at the core. The heat licks your skin, and your thoughts drift between wakefulness and dream. For a brief moment, the fire seems to move differently, forming shapes that resemble faces. You blink, and they vanish. Perhaps you are only tired, but part of you wonders if the old belief is true, maybe something really does live inside the fire. You shake off the thought and look outside again. The snow glows faintly under the moonlight. The stillness feels sacred, as if the world itself holds its breath. Your stomach rumbles softly, but you ignore it. Hunger, cold, and fatigue are constants here. They become part of the rhythm of existence. You step out into the snow for a moment to stretch your legs. The air cuts against your skin, sharp but clean. Above you, the stars finally break through the clouds, bright and endless. They shimmer, like shards of ice scattered across black velvet. It is impossible not to stare. The ancestors before you saw these same stars. They likely used them to tell time or direction, or maybe to dream. Many cultures born from the Ice Age later built myths around these lights, calling them campfires of the spirits or eyes of the sky. The patterns they traced became stories, constellations, and guides. You inhale deeply, letting the cold sting your lungs. For a moment, you feel tiny beneath the universe, yet deeply connected to it. That feeling, the balance between fear and wonder, must have been the seed of spirituality itself. You return to the cave and settle beside the fire once more. The flames welcome you with soft warmth. You feel the heaviness of fatigue creeping in, but you force your eyes to stay open. The tribe sleeps peacefully behind you. You think of the countless generations who stood watch before you, whose quiet vigilance kept the spark of humanity alive through endless nights. The fire crackles softly. Outside, the wind shifts again, but only lightly. You look once more at the glowing coals and whisper a simple promise, words that carry no language but all meaning. I will keep the light until morning. And so you wait, a guardian of warmth in a world of ice. The sky begins to pale behind a thin curtain of clouds. You watch the first hint of dawn bleed across the horizon, faint and blue like the breath of a sleeping giant. The night watch is ending. Your eyes ache from staying open so long, but the sight of morning fills you with quiet relief. The storm has not returned, and the valley below lies calm and untouched, coated in soft light. You rise slowly, stretching the stiffness from your body. The snow outside glows faintly pink now, each crystal scattering light like glass. You can almost feel the air shifting with the warmth of the sun that has yet to appear. Behind you, the tribe stirs. A cough, a rustle, the sound of furs shifting. The world is waking again. You turn to the fire and poke at the embers. They flare to life with a small burst of orange. The smoke curls toward the ceiling, tracing lazy spirals. You add more wood and sit close, palms open to the heat. Around you, soft voices begin to rise, people murmuring quietly, greeting another day. As the others prepare themselves, you notice a section of the cave wall that glows differently under the firelight. The surface is smoother there, as if hands have touched it for centuries. You walk closer, crouching down to look. Faint markings stretch across the stone. They are not scratches from tools or claws, but something deliberate. Lines curve and twist into shapes that might be rivers or winds. The more you stare, the more you see. A reindeer, a handprint, and something like stars. The sight makes your breath catch. These are the voices of those who came before, people who once stood where you stand now, facing the same cold, the same hunger, and the same need to leave a mark behind. According to archaeologists, cave paintings like these were created tens of thousands of years ago, using pigments from minerals, charcoal, and even crushed bones mixed with animal fat. The paint was applied with fingers, hollow reeds, or brushes made from chewed sticks. You trace your fingertips near the drawings, careful not to touch. The air feels charged, as if the wall itself holds memories. Some specialists believe such images were part of hunting rituals. By drawing animals, they hoped to gain power over them, ensuring success in the chase. Others suggest these paintings were spiritual, offerings to unseen forces of nature. The debate continues, but one thing remains certain: art existed long before comfort did. You notice a peculiar detail. Near one of the animal figures, a series of dots form a faint pattern, almost like footprints or stars in a small constellation. One curious theory proposes that ancient artists were recording astronomical events, mapping the sky inside caves to keep track of seasons. It is impossible to prove, yet the idea feels true when you look at the dots glowing faintly in the firelight. Perhaps these early people were already connecting heaven and earth through symbols. The elder approaches quietly behind you. His presence is calm, his steps careful. He stands beside you, studying the wall in silence for a long time. Then he speaks, his voice rough but thoughtful. He tells you that the cave remembers. Every fire, every storm, every voice leaves its trace. His eyes glint in the light. Whether he is repeating an old teaching or inventing one in the moment, you cannot tell, but his words carry the gravity of truth. He gestures to the wall, tracing one of the animal shapes with the tip of his staff. He explains, in his slow way, that these figures are not just art, but a promise. When the tribe returns here next winter, the spirits will know their names. The drawings are a map of memory, guiding the living back to safety. You nod, feeling the depth of it. You think about how modern people use signs, writing, and symbols to keep track of time and place. These markings are the beginning of that impulse. They are messages left across generations, proof that thought itself was already evolving beyond survival. The elder turns to go, leaving you with the fire and the wall. You remain, watching the smoke twist upward, casting the drawings into shifting light. The shapes almost move, alive again for a brief second. You can see the handprint clearly now. It is smaller than yours, perhaps from a young person. Around it, the pigment has faded but not vanished. You hold your own hand beside it, feeling the echo of another life across thousands of years. A chill runs through you that has nothing to do with the cold. To make art in such a place, in such a time, was an act of hope. It meant believing that the future would come, that someone would stand here to see it. You sit again by the fire, lost in thought. The tribe begins to prepare food, thin strips of meat roasted on sticks, melted snow poured into bone cups. The air fills with warmth and the soft rhythm of movement. You realize that this pattern of life, fire, food, art, story, is the same pattern that built every generation that followed. Civilization began here, in the flicker of flame against stone. Some anthropologists point out that these early caves were more than shelters. They were classrooms, sanctuaries, and memory halls. The young learned to listen to the elders here, to draw what they saw and dream what they hoped. Each symbol passed knowledge forward without words. You can almost feel that continuity humming in the air around you. The elder begins to chant softly again, his voice blending with the crackle of fire. The sound carries through the cave, wrapping the space in rhythm. The marks on the wall seem to shimmer in time with his song, as if they are listening. You sit quietly, hands resting on your knees, and let the melody sink in. It feels ancient yet familiar, a song of gratitude for having survived another night. As the light grows brighter outside, the chant fades. The cave falls silent except for the breathing of the fire. You look once more at the handprint and whisper to it, a quiet promise to remember. Then you rise, pulling your cloak tight, and step into the cold daylight. The snow crunches beneath your feet, the wind brushes your face, and the world stretches wide before you. Behind you, the cave glows softly with the warmth of life and art. Ahead, the frozen valley waits. You carry both within you. The morning brightens slowly, the pale sun rising over the white horizon. You step outside the cave and blink against the reflection of light off the snow. The world looks calm, even gentle, though you know its calm can shift to danger in a breath. The air feels sharp in your lungs. You pull your fur hood closer and listen to the muffled silence that follows every snowfall. The land has reset itself overnight, erasing all signs of the previous day. The tracks of the herd, the trails of the tribe, even your own footprints have vanished. It is as if nothing has ever lived here at all. Yet life continues beneath the surface. The snow hides as much as it protects. You crouch down and scoop a handful of it, feeling the texture, soft at the top but packed tight underneath. The layers form from wind, ice, and time, like pages in a story only the patient can read. People of the Ice Age knew these layers well. They understood that snow could kill through cold or save through shelter. It all depended on how it was shaped. According to archaeological research in the northern plains, early humans and even Neanderthals learned to use snow as insulation. They built shallow pits lined with branches and animal hides, then covered them with snow to trap heat inside. Some researchers call these the first winter shelters. Simple, yet brilliant. You imagine yourself digging into a snowbank, carving out a hollow where wind cannot reach. It feels strange to think that safety could be found inside what appears most dangerous. You walk a few steps farther, your boots sinking with a satisfying crunch. The valley below glows with shifting shades of silver and white. Thin wisps of mist drift through the air, twisting between trees like slow-moving ghosts. You run your hand over the nearest snowdrift. It feels cool, smooth, and alive in its own quiet way. The cold does not feel cruel now. It feels purposeful, like the land itself is testing your understanding. There is an odd but fascinating fact recorded by scientists studying ancient Arctic dwellers. They found traces of soot inside layers of compacted snow, suggesting that some Ice Age camps deliberately used snow domes to house small fires. At first glance, it seems impossible. Fire inside snow should melt it instantly. Yet the trick lies in balance. If the walls are thick enough and the fire small enough, the inner layer melts just slightly, refreezing into a smooth, glassy shell that strengthens the structure. The result is a shelter both fragile and strong, warm and cold at once. You picture the scene: a small circle of people sitting inside a hollow of snow, their faces lit by a faint orange glow. The walls shimmer like crystal, and the fire hums softly, safe inside the very element that should have killed them. The image fills you with quiet awe. Humanity has always found ways to turn danger into refuge. You decide to test the idea. With your spear and a curved bone tool, you begin to dig near the edge of the cave where the snow has piled thickly. The top layer gives easily, light as air. Deeper down, the snow becomes dense and icy. You carve slowly, shaping a hollow just large enough to sit in. When you crawl inside, the sound of the world changes instantly. The howling of the wind fades. The air feels still, close, and strangely peaceful. You can hear your heartbeat more clearly than the forest. Inside this temporary cocoon, the cold does not bite as fiercely. The snow seems to breathe around you, holding in the faint warmth of your body. You realize how clever your ancestors were. To see possibility where others saw death requires imagination. Perhaps survival was always a kind of art. When you emerge, blinking against the bright sky, a few members of your group are watching. One laughs softly and nods in approval. You wave a gloved hand, and together you begin to build a larger shelter. With practiced rhythm, you carve blocks of snow from the surrounding drifts and arrange them in a circle. The blocks are heavy, but they fit together like puzzle pieces. The tribe works without words, guided by instinct and memory. Soon a rounded dome begins to take shape. Some archaeologists who study early northern communities believe that such cooperative building projects served not only practical needs, but also social ones. They required coordination, communication, and trust. In that sense, every snow shelter was also a lesson in community. Others argue that these structures were too rare to have much social impact, existing only in extreme conditions. But looking at your group now, working together without complaint, it feels easy to believe the first view. When the shelter is complete, you crawl inside and light a small fire in the center. The air fills with the scent of smoke and melting frost. A faint hiss echoes through the hollow, but the structure holds. The inner walls glisten like polished stone, and the firelight paints them gold. You touch one wall carefully. It feels damp but solid. A tiny droplet runs down your finger, cold and bright as a gem. You sit back and smile. The warmth is faint, but it is there. The sound of wind outside is distant, muffled by thick layers of snow. Inside, the world feels suspended in stillness. For a few moments, it is easy to forget the danger beyond this glowing bubble. You can imagine how people of your age might have felt the same. Relief, pride, perhaps even wonder. There is a detail recorded by explorers who lived among Arctic peoples thousands of years later. They wrote that inside snow dwellings, voices sounded softer, almost musical, as if the walls turned every word into song. You test this idea now, whispering a few words to yourself. The sound echoes gently, round and warm. You laugh quietly, amazed that the snow itself can sing. The others join you inside, one by one, until the small space fills with breathing and laughter. Someone passes around strips of dried meat. Another adds a small bone lamp near the entrance. The light flickers against the shimmering walls, casting ripples of gold and white. It feels like sitting inside the heart of a frozen star. You realize that snow, once your greatest enemy, has become your ally. It shelters you from wind, softens the noise of the world, and reflects the light that keeps you alive. You rest your head against the wall, feeling the faint vibration of life moving through it. The boundary between you and nature no longer feels harsh, it feels shared. As the fire burns low, you listen to the soft breaths of your companions. Outside, the wind rises again, but it cannot reach you here. You close your eyes, wrapped in warmth and the hum of quiet voices. The snow will hold until morning, and in this fragile shell of light and cold, you feel something close to peace. The dawn breaks again, pale and calm. The storm that had once swallowed the world has become a distant memory. You emerge from the snow shelter and stand for a long moment at its entrance, watching the morning light spill across the land. The sky has turned the color of soft silver, and the snow reflects it like a mirror. The wind feels gentle today, brushing your face with a cool hand rather than claws of ice. Your boots sink lightly into the surface, the snow compacted from the previous day's work. The air is filled with the faint scent of pine and smoke. Behind you, your tribe stirs slowly within the dome of packed snow, their breath sending little clouds into the air. The fire inside glows faintly through a small hole in the roof. You smile and turn toward the distant valley, where the ground dips and a line of frozen rivers stretches out like veins through the earth. You decide to explore. Every step crunches softly. The cold bites at your cheeks, but your clothing shields you well. The landscape is breathtaking in its silence. There are no birds singing, no insects humming, only the faint hiss of wind over ice. The frozen rivers glint faintly beneath the sun, winding through the land like glass serpents. You follow one, careful to test each step before committing your weight. The surface feels solid, hard as stone. Beneath it, you sense movement, water trapped, restless, waiting for spring. According to geological studies, glaciers once covered vast parts of the world, carving valleys and leaving behind these frozen waterways. The people who lived here would have used the rivers as roads when the snow was too deep to cross. It was an ancient form of travel, a natural map carved by time. By following the ice, hunters could move silently across miles of wilderness. You kneel down and touch the surface of the frozen river. The ice is smooth, clear in some places, clouded in others. Tiny bubbles shimmer inside like trapped stars. You can almost imagine them moving, whispering stories of the deep. In some areas, ancient remains of animals have been found encased in glacial layers, woolly mammoths, cave lions, even fish perfectly preserved for thousands of years. These discoveries remind scientists how close life and death once lived side by side in this world. A faint sound catches your attention, something between a sigh and a crack. You freeze, listening. The noise comes again, soft but distinct, the groan of ice expanding under pressure. It echoes like thunder from beneath your feet. You step back quickly to safer ground, feeling the vibration fade through your boots. You exhale slowly, aware of how thin the barrier is between safety and disaster. Some researchers suggest that prehistoric people believed spirits lived beneath the ice. They described the sounds of cracking glaciers as the voices of sleeping gods or ancestors. It makes sense. When you hear the earth itself speaking, what else could it be but divine? Even now, the sound lingers in your ears like a warning wrapped in beauty. You walk along the riverbank instead, where the snow is firm and dry. The sun climbs higher, soft light spreading across the valley. In the distance, you see shapes that might be rocks, or perhaps something more. As you approach, the outlines sharpen into the remains of an old hunting camp. Bones, stone flakes, and charred wood half buried in snow. You crouch and brush away the frost. The site feels ancient, older even than your own group's time here. You pick up a small tool from the ground, a stone scraper worn smooth at the edges. It fits easily in your hand, as if it remembers being held. Tools like these have been found across continents, shaped by people who never met but somehow shared the same design. Many archaeologists believe that early humans migrated along frozen rivers like this one, carrying knowledge from one land to another. Ideas traveled faster than people, leaving trails of invention scattered across the ice. You place the tool back gently and rise. The wind shifts, carrying with it a faint scent of something metallic and clean fresh water flowing under the ice, perhaps. It is strange how your senses adapt in this world, how your body can tell stories that language has forgotten. You take a deep breath and continue walking. At a bend in the river, you see something unusual. The ice here is clearer, almost transparent, and beneath it lies a dark shape. You kneel again, brushing snow away until the form becomes visible. The skeleton of a fish, perfectly preserved, its bones gleaming faintly under the surface. You stare at it for a long time, mesmerized. Life caught in stillness, suspended in crystal. A curious idea occurs to you. What if early people saw things like this and believed the ice held memory? Some evidence suggests they did. Certain myths from northern regions speak of frozen waters that remember every creature they swallow. When the ice melts, the souls are released to swim again in spring. Whether those stories came from observation or imagination, no one can say. But standing here, seeing the fish beneath the ice, the idea feels true. You sit for a while on the edge of the river, letting the quiet settle around you. The wind brushes past your hair, and the sun glints across the surface like shifting fire. The world feels eternal, as if it has existed this way forever. Yet you know it changes with every thaw, every storm, every human step. You trace the path of the river with your eyes, following it as it disappears into the horizon. Somewhere far beyond, it must join other rivers, carving through mountains and forests until it reaches a sea that no one in your lifetime will ever see. Still, you feel a strange kinship with that distance. The same water that sleeps under your feet will one day move freely again. The thought comforts you. As the sun begins to sink, you rise and turn back toward the cave. Your footprints mark the snow behind you in a long, winding line. Each one looks small, fragile, yet together they form a trail that will last until the next snowfall erases it. You wonder if the people who once camped here left their tracks the same way, fleeting signatures written across a temporary world. The walk back feels easier, though the air grows colder with each passing minute. When you reach the snow dome, smoke still curls from its vent, faint and grey. Inside, laughter greets you. Someone is telling a story, voice rising and falling in rhythm with the fire. You duck through the entrance, greeted by warmth, by the smell of food, by life. You sit down, stretch your hands toward the flames, and glance at your companions. Their faces glow with the same light reflected from the snow outside. You realize that every journey into the cold, every step across frozen rivers and fields, always ends the same way, back to the circle of warmth and voices. Outside, the frozen river keeps its secrets. Inside, the fire keeps its promise. The snow crunches beneath your boots as you move through the valley, the air crisp and bright. Each breath steams in the morning light. You have been walking for hours, gathering wood and checking traps, your senses sharpened by hunger and cold. When you return to the cave, the fire is burning low. You kneel beside it and begin to feed it the small branches you collected, listening to the wood hiss as the ice on it melts. Your hands ache from the chill, the skin rough and split along the knuckles. You hold them over the rising flame, feeling the warmth creep slowly back into your fingers. Fire is more than comfort. It is medicine, companion, and memory. Archaeological findings show that ancient hearths were carefully maintained through entire winters, with ashes layered neatly to preserve coals overnight. The skill of keeping fire alive was passed from one generation to the next, a knowledge guarded more carefully than any weapon. You pick up a stone flake and begin to sharpen one of your bone tools. The scraping sound echoes softly in the cave. Sparks leap where stone meets bone. Tools like this are simple, yet elegant in their purpose. The earliest humans shaped such tools using hammerstones, creating sharp edges for scraping hides or cutting meat. What seems crude at first glance reveals a deep understanding of material and form. According to experts, these implements were the first expression of human technology, proof that thought could become creation. You pause to examine the bone. The tip is smooth, polished by hours of handling. You touch it lightly against your palm. It feels balanced, alive in your grip. The act of crafting tools was more than survival. It was identity. Each mark carried the story of its maker, every groove a trace of time spent in focus and patience. It is difficult not to feel pride in such work. One interesting detail noted by archaeologists is that ancient people often decorated even their simplest tools. Lines, dots, and spiral patterns etched into handles, sometimes filled with ochre pigment. These markings had no clear practical purpose, yet they appear again and again in finds across continents. Some believe they were for grip, while others think they were expressions of ownership or even quiet beauty. The idea that someone could carve art into a tool built for survival reminds you that creativity and necessity have always lived side by side. You set the tool aside and reach for another, a needle carved from bird bone. The hole at its tip is so small you can barely see through it. You thread it with sinew, careful not to tear the delicate fibers. The thread pulls tight, strong as wire. You use it to mend a tear in one of your hides. The process is slow, but each stitch brings satisfaction. Your ancestors would have known this feeling well, the calm rhythm of creation in a world of chaos. Not far from the fire, one of your companions works with a scraper, cleaning the fat from a piece of hide. The smell is sharp but familiar. Together, you work in silence, the sound of scraping and sewing blending into a gentle music. It is strange how the simplest noises can bring comfort. Work becomes a form of meditation, a way to steady the mind when the world outside is uncertain. Some anthropologists believe that these shared moments of labor helped shape early social bonds. Cooperation in silence built trust, while repetition brought peace. Even now, as you mend and carve, you feel the connection between motion and thought. The task requires no words, yet it speaks volumes. When you finish, you sit back and admire your work. The repaired hide looks sturdy again. The bone tools lie in a small pile beside you, each one sharp and ready. The firelight dances across their edges, casting small glints of reflected light onto the cave wall. You realize that these are the first forms of technology, not in the sense of machines, but as extensions of human thought. They are bridges between idea and reality. You think about how many generations have refined these designs. Over time, people learned to use fire to harden wood, to heat and flake stone more precisely. These were not accidental discoveries, but steps in an invisible ladder of knowledge. Some researchers argue that the rise of toolmaking sparked the growth of imagination itself. Each improvement required foresight, memory, and experimentation qualities that define humanity. Others disagree, suggesting that creativity came first, that imagination inspired the making of tools. Either way, the link between mind and hand is unbreakable. You lift one of the scrapers and study its shape again. The edge is slightly curved, perfect for slicing through hide without tearing it. You test it on a strip of fur, the blade gliding cleanly through. The motion feels natural, graceful even. This tool, made from stone and bone, carries within it the logic of design that would one day lead to all invention. It is humbling to think that something so simple opened the path toward everything humans would become. A soft gust of wind enters the cave, stirring the fire. The light flickers across the walls, and for a moment you see the faint drawings you made earlier shimmer in the glow. The handprints and animals seem to move, as if the ancestors are watching, nodding in approval. You smile, feeling their silent company. You take one of the finished tools and press it into the earth near the fire, blade down. It stands upright, catching the light. A quiet gesture of respect, perhaps even gratitude. The others notice and nod without speaking. In their eyes, you see the same understanding. The things you make are not just for survival, they are promises to the future. Outside, the wind grows softer. Snow drifts lazily past the entrance, each flake glinting in the fading light. You set your tools aside and sit with your back to the cave wall, watching the shadows lengthen. The fire crackles steadily, and the smell of burning pine fills the air. You think about how much of human life revolves around creation. Fire, tools, shelter, clothing, all made by hand, all born from need and imagination. Perhaps this is the true warmth that keeps you alive, the quiet joy of shaping the world into something that answers your will. You stretch your legs and close your eyes, feeling the ache in your hands fade into comfort. The fire hums softly, and the stone beside you feels warm. Outside, the snow continues to fall, but inside this cave, you have carved a small pocket of light against the darkness. The fire burns low, and the air in the cave feels thick with the scent of smoke and sleep. You lie on your bedding, watching faint embers pulse like tiny red eyes in the dark. The others are quiet now, their breathing steady, their bodies curled close to the warmth. It is deep night again, that hour when the world feels suspended between life and dream. You close your eyes, but your mind refuses to rest. The flickering light dances behind your eyelids, and you begin to think about the rhythm of sleep itself. In the Ice Age, rest was a skill, not a luxury. The cycle of day and night was uncertain. The sun might disappear behind clouds for weeks, and darkness could last for half the day. People learned to sleep in fragments, taking what rest they could whenever the fire allowed it. According to research on prehistoric lifestyles, many tribes practiced segmented sleep. They would rest for a few hours after dusk, wake in the middle of the night to tend the fire or watch for danger, then return to sleep before dawn. It was a pattern shaped by survival and still echoed in old traditions across the world. You roll onto your side and listen to the fire crackle. Your body feels heavy but alert, caught in that halfway space between exhaustion and awareness. The cold presses close outside, but inside the cave, it is warm enough to soften your muscles. The warmth lulls you, and slowly your breathing falls into the same rhythm as the tribe's. You remember the elder's story about the cave spirits, how they walked among the sleeping to whisper guidance. Maybe he told it to comfort the young, but part of you wants to believe it. In the stillness, it is easy to imagine shapes moving at the edge of vision, spirits of the storm, ancestors watching over the fire. You blink and see only shadows, yet the feeling remains. Sleep in this age is not quiet. Even when bodies rest, minds stay half awake, listening for danger. Some anthropologists suggest that this pattern of partial rest shaped early human awareness, training the brain to sense change in sound or movement, even while dreaming. Others think that fear kept people close to consciousness, the price of survival in a world that never stopped watching back. Whatever the reason, your ancestors learned to dream with one eye open. You drift closer to sleep now, the air thick and warm. The fire pops, sending a burst of light across the walls. For a moment, you think you see movement, a figure crouched near the flames, eyes glowing like coals. You blink, and it is gone. Only the shifting shadows remain. Perhaps it was a trick of light, or perhaps memory itself visiting for a moment. You hear soft murmurs from the others. A child turns in sleep, mumbling something that sounds like a word but means nothing. The elder coughs quietly and settles again. It is a strange comfort, these sounds of shared rest. Even in dreams, the tribe breathes as one. You think of what dreams might have meant to people before language. Some archaeologists studying cave art believe that the earliest images came from visions seen in sleep or trance. The boundaries between dream and waking were thin then. A dream could be prophecy, warning, or simple memory. People might have dreamed of animals and believed those visions guided their hunts. To them, the night was not escape, but instruction. Your thoughts drift further. You imagine an ancient woman lying beside a fire like this one, dreaming of reindeer running through snow. She wakes, tells her family, and later paints the image on the wall to preserve it. Generations later, you stand before that painting and feel what she felt. Perhaps this is how continuity began. One dream carried across millennia, passed from mind to stone to memory. The fire fades lower, and you turn to face it. The orange light paints your companions in shades of gold and shadow. Their faces are calm, lined with the marks of cold and fatigue, yet peaceful. You realize that these moments sleeping together, breathing together, are what made humans a species of endurance. Alone, no one could survive this world. Together, even rest becomes a shared act of strength. You adjust the furs over your shoulders and close your eyes again. Outside, the wind sighs gently through the trees, a low, endless whisper. You imagine it carrying messages from distant lands, perhaps even from other tribes sleeping under the same sky. Somewhere far away, another fire burns, another group breathes in rhythm with yours. The thought connects you to them, invisible threads stretching through the cold night. A strange memory surfaces, something the elder said before. He once claimed that sleep was a way of speaking to the earth. When people rested close to the ground, the earth listened and answered in dreams. You smile at the idea, simple and beautiful. Perhaps that is why every dream feels like it belongs to the soil, to the stone, to the fire that hums just above it. The fire crackles again, pulling you back from the edge of dreaming. You turn slightly and watch sparks rise into the air, glowing for a heartbeat before vanishing. Each spark is like a thought, bright and fleeting. Maybe that is what dreams are, little fires inside the mind, each one fading as quickly as it forms. Your eyes grow heavy. The cold recedes further from your skin. The sound of breathing fills your ears, steady as a tide. You sink deeper, thoughts scattering like snowflakes. The line between body and world blurs until you can no longer tell where you end and the night begins. Time loses meaning. You drift through warmth and shadow, through memories that might not be yours. For a moment, you stand in sunlight that has not yet been born. Then everything quiets again. In this stillness, you understand something simple and profound. Even in the harshest cold, rest is an act of faith. To close your eyes here is to trust the fire, the tribe, the earth itself. Sleep is surrender, but also courage. You exhale once, long and slow. The sound blends with the breathing of the others. The last thing you feel before sleep takes you is the faint vibration of the fire beside you, alive and steady, keeping its quiet promise until dawn. You wake to the sound of something moving outside. The noise is soft at first, almost gentle, like snow shifting under its own weight. Then it comes again, heavier this time. You open your eyes. The fire has burned down to glowing coals, and the cave is dim with morning light. The others are still asleep. You move quietly, pulling on your boots and reaching for your spear. Outside, the air feels sharp enough to cut. A pale fog drifts low across the ground. The snow crunches beneath your feet as you step out. The world is quiet except for that sound again. A faint scraping, a breath, and the slow rhythm of something alive nearby. You crouch, eyes narrowing. At the edge of the clearing, you see a shadow moving between the trees. It is large, much larger than a man. You hold your breath. The shape shifts again, revealing the curve of a massive shoulder, the glint of fur covered in frost. Then you see its face, long muzzle, yellow eyes, and tusk-like fangs curved like knives. A cave lion. Its head turns slightly, catching your scent. For a heartbeat, you and the beast are locked in stillness. The lion lowers itself to the ground, muscles rippling under its thick coat. You tighten your grip on the spear, your pulse steady but strong. There is no anger in the animal's eyes, only calculation. It is hungry, and you are simply another moving thing in its world. According to paleontologists, cave lions once roamed across Eurasia, powerful hunters that could bring down mammoths and bison. Their remains have been found in Ice Age caves alongside human footprints and tools, suggesting that encounters like this were not rare. Some carvings even depict humans and lions side by side, not always in battle but sometimes in strange harmony. Perhaps fear and reverence were inseparable then. You take a slow step backward. The lion's ears flick, but it does not move. You glance at the snow and see another set of prints, smaller, fresher, circling behind. Your breath catches. There is more than one. You feel the weight of their presence in the still air. Every instinct tells you not to run. Running makes you prey. You retreat toward the cave, careful, deliberate. The fog wraps around you, muffling sound. When you reach the entrance, you call softly to the others. The elder stirs first, eyes sharp even from sleep. He understands before you speak. The tribe wakes in silence. The fire is stirred back to life, sparks rising like small stars. The flicker of flame pushes the shadows back from the entrance. Predators hate fire. You know this. The first humans learned it the hard way. According to some researchers, the control of fire may have been as much about defense as warmth. The sight of flame and the smell of smoke became a barrier between human life and the wilderness that surrounded it. Even now you feel the power of that old magic. Outside, the lion growls, deep and resonant. The sound vibrates through the ground beneath your feet, It is not an attack yet, just a warning, a test. You and your people respond the only way you can. You feed the fire until it roars, light spilling out across the snow. The flames twist and snap, casting wild shadows that dance like spirits on the white ground. The lions pace at the edge of the clearing, their eyes glowing faintly in the half-light. You count 2 of them now, maybe 3. Their fur blends with the frost, almost invisible except when they move. They are magnificent, terrible, and alive in a way that defies reason. You feel fear but also awe. These creatures are not enemies. They are reminders that you are still part of something vast and untamed. A strange detail from ancient art flickers through your thoughts. In several caves, including one in France, artists painted lions with astonishing detail, muscles, claws, even expressions. Some believe these were the work of people who observed lions up close, perhaps even respected them as symbols of power or guardians of the spirit world. Others dismiss the idea, saying the paintings were warnings, not reverence. Still, looking at these beasts now, it is easy to understand why they inspired both fear and wonder. The elder begins to hum, low and steady, a sound that rises from deep in his chest. It is not music in the way you know it now, but something older, like the voice of the earth. The others join him, their tones weaving together until the air hums with vibration. The lions hesitate, ears twitching. The combination of sound and fire seems to confuse them. For a long moment they linger, tails flicking. Then, one by one, they turn and fade into the mist. When the last sound of their movement vanishes, the group exhales in unison. Relief spreads through the cave like warmth. You lower your spear and look toward the clearing. The fog begins to lift, revealing the trail of paw prints leading away toward the frozen river. You know they will be back someday, or others will. The wilderness is never empty for long. You sit near the fire, heart still steady but your hands trembling slightly. The elder places a hand on your shoulder. He does not speak, but his expression says everything. You have faced the wild and lived. In this world, that is a victory worth remembering. You add more wood to the fire and watch as the flames rise again. The light fills the cave, pushing back every trace of fear. You notice the drawings on the wall glowing softly, their painted animals flickering as if alive. The lions outside are gone, but their presence lingers in the shadows. You understand now why your ancestors painted them. It was not only to capture what they saw, but to honor what they survived. Later, when the tribe begins to rest again, you stay awake a little longer. The fire hums quietly, the air thick with the smell of ash and fur. You think about the balance between predator and prey, between power and caution. The Ice Age never gave gifts freely. Every moment of peace was earned through alertness. You close your eyes finally, the echoes of the lion's roars still vibrating faintly in your chest. The wilderness has tested you, but it has also accepted you. The fire burns bright enough to hold back the dark, and for now, that is all you need. The next morning arrives softly. Pale sunlight filters through the mist, and the snow sparkles as if sprinkled with crushed glass. The cold feels gentler after the long night, its edge dulled by survival and fire. You stretch your arms and breathe in the crisp air that drifts through the cave entrance. The memory of the lions lingers like a story told in whispers. Outside, their tracks snake away toward the horizon, already filling with new snow. The tribe moves slowly, careful not to disturb the fragile peace. Some gather firewood while others clean the hides spread near the fire. A few of the children sit near the entrance, their fingers tracing shapes in the frost. You watch them for a moment, realizing how easily play hides inside hardship. Even here, in this world of ice, there is laughter. As the morning passes, one of the hunters pulls something from his pack, a hollow bird bone, smooth and pale, pierced with small, evenly spaced holes. He lifts it to his lips and blows. The sound that comes out is soft and wavering, a faint note that drifts through the cave like smoke. Everyone turns to listen. It is music, primitive and thin, but undeniably beautiful. Archaeologists have found flutes just like this one in caves across Europe, carved from vulture or swan bones more than 30,000 years old. The spacing of the holes shows an understanding of tone and pitch far older than anyone once believed. These instruments were not made for hunting or labor. They were made for something deeper, perhaps for calm, or prayer, or memory. Perhaps just to remind people that even in a frozen world, beauty still had a place. The hunter plays again, this time more confidently. The melody is simple, rising and falling like the wind. Others begin to hum along, voices blending with the soft sound of the flute. The effect is hypnotic. The cave fills with rhythm and warmth. You feel the sound in your chest more than you hear it, like the echo of a heartbeat. Some researchers suggest that early music was used to regulate emotion during hardship. Singing and rhythm could steady breath, calm fear, and bring a sense of unity to small groups. Others believe it was tied to ritual, perhaps used to mimic natural sounds whined through grass, the distant calls of animals. Listening now, you think both explanations might be right. The song feels both practical and spiritual, a bridge between the human heart and the wilderness outside. The music grows louder as more people join in. One person keeps time by tapping two stones together. Another uses a piece of antler to strike a hollow log, producing a low, resonant beat. The children clap their hands against their knees, their laughter blending into the rhythm. It feels as if the entire cave is alive, breathing in harmony. You close your eyes and let the sound carry you. For a moment, you are not cold or hungry or fearful. You are simply part of something vast, something older than words. The song swells and fades, echoing softly through the air. The walls seem to glow, and the smoke rising from the fire twirls as if dancing with the melody. An unusual discovery made by modern researchers adds another layer of wonder. In some ancient caves, acoustic studies have revealed that painted chambers often coincide with spots that produce strong echoes or unique resonance. The people who created the art may have chosen these places not just for light or safety, but for sound. They could have painted and sung together, the echoes amplifying both image and voice. The idea that art and music were born together feels deeply true as you sit surrounded by both. The flute player lowers his instrument and smiles. The sound fades into silence, leaving a faint ringing in your ears. For a heartbeat, no one speaks. Then the elder chuckles softly, clapping the young hunter on the shoulder. His laugh breaks the spell, and soon others join in, murmuring, smiling, alive. The moment passes, but its warmth lingers like sunlight under the skin. You notice how the sound has changed the air in the cave. The fire feels brighter, the cold less cruel. The tribe moves differently now, lighter somehow, the rhythm of the song still pulsing in their steps. You think of how fragile and yet powerful sound can be. A single note can transform fear into courage, exhaustion into hope. One curious belief recorded from early oral traditions holds that music was a gift from animals. Some legends say that birds taught humans to sing, while wolves taught them to howl together under the moon. Maybe that is why so much ancient music imitates nature. It is a dialogue, not a performance. When you listen closely to the wind outside, you hear the same pattern as the flute's tune, a repeating rise and fall. It feels like conversation across time. You take the flute when the hunter offers it. The bone is smooth and warm from his touch. You press it to your lips and blow gently. The sound wavers but finds its voice, a small note floating through the smoke. The others smile and listen. You close your eyes and play again, letting instinct guide your breath. The melody that comes is your own simple, a little uneven but alive. The elder nods, murmuring something that sounds like a blessing. He tells you that every sound carries a spirit, that music invites the world to listen. His words make sense in this place. When you play, it feels as if the fire leans closer, the air thickens, and even the cold outside pauses to hear. You hand the flute back, and the hunter sets it beside the fire. The tribe begins preparing food, cutting meat, stirring snow into melted water. The rhythm of work returns, but softer now, touched by the echo of song. You help where you can, still humming under your breath. The melody clings to you like a warm memory. As the day fades into dusk, the light outside turns golden, filtering through clouds like thin silk. The snow reflects it, glowing faintly as though the ground itself has caught fire. The tribe gathers near the entrance, watching the sun sink below the horizon. Someone begins to hum again. The tune rises quietly into the air, blending with the sigh of wind and the crackle of fire. In that moment, the wilderness no longer feels empty. It listens, it hums back. And as darkness folds over the valley once more, the music fades into silence, but the peace it leaves behind stays with you, steady as a heartbeat. Night returns like a quiet tide, slipping across the snow with a silver glow. You sit close to the fire, its warmth painting gold across the walls of the cave. The sound of the flute still lingers in your ears, faint and soothing, like an echo that refuses to fade. The tribe settles around you, their movements slow and calm. Some lie down to sleep, others whisper softly, their words drifting in the smoke like small pieces of warmth. You glance at the woman sitting across from you. She is mending a tear in her cloak, her fingers quick despite the cold. The light of the fire touches her hair, turning it to copper. When she notices you watching, she smiles, small but real. You return the gesture, and for a moment the whole frozen world seems to shrink to this single circle of light. Love, in this age, is not a luxury or a story. It is a quiet partnership built in the rhythm of survival. Two people sharing warmth beneath a single fur, splitting the last strip of dried meat, or keeping watch so the other can rest. It is the kind of affection born not from abundance, but from trust. Archaeologists studying prehistoric graves have found pairs of bodies buried together, sometimes hand in hand. Some interpret these as signs of early romantic bonds, proof that even in the most brutal conditions, humans chose connection over isolation. You move closer to the fire, and she hands you a small bone needle. The thread is sinew, pale and strong. Together you work on mending another hide, passing the needle back and forth. The work is simple, but each motion feels deliberate, sacred even. It reminds you of the way music filled the cave earlier, the same rhythm, the same quiet harmony. The fire crackles softly, and the rest of the world fades away. There is something almost miraculous about companionship in a place like this. It is a rebellion against the emptiness. Some researchers believe that emotional bonds helped early humans survive longer winters, not just through shared labor, but through shared hope. People with someone to care for, or to be cared by, fought harder against despair. The heart, it seems, was as vital to survival as fire and food. You glance again at the woman beside you. Her hands are scarred, her face marked by wind and cold, yet her eyes shine with calm determination. You wonder what she dreams about when she sleeps. Maybe she dreams of green fields untouched by snow, or of sunlight that never fades. You imagine lying beside her then, the world soft and warm instead of sharp and bright. The thought makes you smile without meaning to. She notices and laughs quietly. The sound is small but cuts through the night like a spark. For a moment, even the fire seems to listen. You do not speak, but you do not need to. Words are new in this world, still learning their purpose. Meaning lives in silence, in glances, in shared motion. A curious theory from modern anthropology suggests that love itself may have evolved as a survival mechanism. The pair bond between two people increased the chances of raising children, hunting successfully, and defending shelter. But that explanation feels too simple. Sitting here, watching her smile in the firelight, you sense something deeper, something not born of calculation, but of recognition. Perhaps love began when humans first saw themselves reflected in another's eyes and decided to stay. Outside, the wind rises again, but softly this time. It slides across the mouth of the cave, creating a faint whistle like a lullaby. You look toward the entrance and see snow drifting gently past. The world feels still, as if it too has paused to rest. You reach for a piece of wood and feed it to the fire. The flame leaps higher, painting new shadows along the walls. She finishes the stitching and sets the cloak aside. Then she leans her head against your shoulder, sighing quietly. The gesture is simple, but it carries a weight beyond words. You feel her warmth through the layers of fur, steady and human. In a place where everything freezes, the smallest touch feels infinite. You think about how early people might have expressed affection before language. Some carved small figures from bone or ivory, shaped with care. Many of these have been found buried near hearths or tucked into resting places. The meaning of these carvings remains a mystery. Some see them as fertility charms, others as portraits of loved ones. Perhaps they were both. Perhaps each one was a prayer not just for survival, but for closeness. The elder, lying near the fire, opens his eyes briefly. He watches the two of you and smiles, a knowing, quiet smile. He says something low and gentle, a phrase in his rough tongue that sounds like blessing. Then he closes his eyes again, his breathing falling back into rhythm with the crackle of the fire. You sit for a long time without speaking. The air grows warmer as the fire burns higher. Your heartbeat slows, matching the pulse of the flames. You are aware of every small sound, the sigh of wind, the shifting of furs, the pop of sap inside the burning wood. The world feels alive and still at once. In the distance, far beyond the cave, a wolf howls. The sound stretches across the valley, deep and mournful. Another answers, closer this time. The woman beside you tilts her head, listening. The sound is not frightening. It feels like music, an echo of the flute's melody carried by the wilderness. You both listen until the last note fades into silence. Some legends passed down through later cultures claim that wolves and humans once shared an unspoken kinship, bound by mutual respect and mirrored longing. The howls in the night might have been both challenge and song, a reminder that love and loneliness can exist side by side. Hearing it now, you feel that truth settle inside you like warmth. You close your eyes. The fire hums quietly. The air smells of ash and fir, and the presence beside you feels solid and real. The world outside may be frozen, but here, within this small circle of light, life beats steady and slow. You reach for her hand beneath the furs. She squeezes back, her fingers rough but gentle. Neither of you speaks. The fire glows between you, the oldest witness of all. In this silence, something shifts quietly inside you. Not fear, not hunger, but the realization that warmth shared is worth more than warmth alone. You lean your head against hers and let the sound of the fire lull you towards sleep. The night deepens, and the cave becomes a cradle of light, holding both of you safe until dawn. The morning arrives slow and pale. The snow outside has settled into soft mounds, glittering faintly beneath the light of the hidden sun. Inside the cave, the air is thick with warmth and smoke, the last curls of ash drifting upward like breath from the sleeping earth. You open your eyes to find the fire still glowing faintly. The woman beside you sleeps with her arm draped across her chest, her face calm and still. You sit up quietly, stretching the stiffness from your back. The familiar ache feels almost comforting now, a reminder that your body is still working, still alive. The others begin to stir one by one. The elder wakes with a low sigh, his joints creaking as he moves closer to the fire. A few hunters whisper among themselves, planning the day ahead. Outside, the wind hums faintly, distant and steady. The rhythm of survival continues. You step into the open air, blinking against the brightness. The cold greets you instantly, sharp but clean. You fill your lungs with it, feeling both pain and clarity at once. The snow crunches underfoot as you move toward a patch of bare earth near the rocks. There you find small plants poking through the frost, their leaves dark and waxy. You kneel, brushing snow aside to uncover more. Medicinal herbs. The healer's trade. People of your time understood these plants through generations of memory. They learned by watching animals what roots they chewed when sick, what leaves they avoided. This slow, collective wisdom built the earliest form of medicine. According to studies of ancient sites, bundles of herbs have been found buried alongside tools and ornaments, suggesting that healers held a special place within their tribes. They were keepers of both knowledge and hope. You pluck a few stems carefully and return to the cave. The elder watches you, nodding as you approach. He gestures for you to sit. His face is lined like weathered bark, but his eyes are bright, alive with memory. He begins to speak softly, pointing toward the herbs in your hand. His words carry the weight of teaching. You listen closely, repeating the sounds as best you can. He explains, through slow gestures and murmured words, how these plants ease pain when boiled with water, how the roots soothe fevers, how the smoke drives away insects that carry sickness. You watch his hands move with precision. They tremble with age, but every motion is sure. When he grinds one of the roots against a flat stone, a strong, bitter scent fills the air. You help him pour water into a small pot made of clay and ash. The liquid begins to bubble, releasing steam that smells sharp and earthy. He dips a piece of hide into the mixture, wringing it out before placing it over a burn on one of the younger hunter's arms. The boy winces, then exhales. You can see the relief spread through his shoulders. It is strange to think that healing here does not come from comfort or luxury, but from courage. To touch pain directly and turn it toward recovery is an act of faith. Some anthropologists believe that early healers were also the first storytellers. Their words soothed as much as their remedies did. The promise of recovery was part medicine, part magic. The elder reaches into a pouch and pulls out a few small stones, each one etched with faint lines. He holds one out to you, explaining that these markings represent certain herbs and ailments. It is his way of keeping record, a memory carved into rock. You run your thumb over the lines and feel the faint grooves. They are crude but deliberate. It may be the earliest form of written language the human need to remember, captured in stone. An unusual detail mentioned by some researchers suggests that smoke itself was believed to have power. People burned herbs to cleanse air and drive away illness. You see the elder do this now, tossing dried leaves onto the fire. The cave fills with a sharp, aromatic scent, making your eyes water slightly. The smoke curls toward the ceiling, carrying its invisible prayer upward. You watch the younger hunter, his arm now wrapped neatly, sitting quietly near the flames. His breathing steadies. Around him, the tribe continues its slow dance of daily tasks. Some scrape hides, others prepare tools, a few melt snow for water. Life here is a steady rhythm, fragile but unbroken. You glance again at the elder. He looks tired, his shoulders slumped, but his expression is peaceful. You sense that every act of care, boiling herbs, wrapping wounds, teaching another to heal, is its own kind of prayer. You help him pour more water into the pot and stir the mixture with a smooth stick. The color darkens, the smell deepens. It may surprise you to know that in later centuries, when modern medicine began to form, traces of these same herbs would reappear in the earliest written records. The instincts of the Ice Age healer would echo through time, shaping knowledge that outlived the cold itself. You think of that as you watch the steam rise from the pot, curling like memory itself. Outside, a gust of wind rushes past the entrance, shaking snow loose from the overhang. The elder looks toward the sound, his eyes distant. He says something you do not quite understand, but his tone is solemn. Perhaps he is thanking the spirits for protection, or simply acknowledging their presence. It is easy to believe in unseen forces here, where every breath depends on mercy. The woman who slept beside you earlier brings the elder a cup made from bone, filled with melted snow. He drinks slowly, his eyes closing in gratitude. You feel a quiet respect rise inside you. The healer is the tribe's memory, its heart. When he is gone, his knowledge must live on in those who watched and listened. You take another handful of herbs from the bundle and begin to grind them as he did, careful to match his rhythm. The stone feels rough beneath your hands. The scent fills the air again, sharp and clean. The elder nods with approval. The faintest smile crosses his lips. Later, when the fire burns lower and the tribe gathers again to eat, you notice how the air feels lighter. The wounded boy laughs softly, the others relax, and the elder hums an old tune under his breath. Healing, you realize, is not only for the body, it is for the spirit that refuses to surrender. You sit quietly near the fire, your fingers stained green from herbs, your heart steady with warmth. The cave glows with light and life. Outside, the world is still ice and shadow, but inside, the air hums with something stronger than survival. You look at the elder, who now rests with his eyes half closed. He has given you something beyond medicine. He has given you understanding, the knowledge that care, even in the smallest act, is what keeps the heart alive through the longest winter. The day fades slowly, the light dimming into soft shades of grey and blue. The wind outside has calmed, and the air feels thick and still, as if the world is holding its breath. Inside the cave, the fire burns low and steady. The smell of herbs lingers from the morning's work, blending with the warm scent of cooked meat. You sit near the flames, watching sparks rise and vanish into the dark above. The elder sits beside you again, his posture relaxed, his gaze lost in the fire. The others settle around him, forming a loose circle. The children lean against their mothers, half asleep but listening. There is something in the air tonight, something quiet but heavy with meaning. The elder lifts his hand toward the flames and begins to speak. His voice is low and rough, shaped by years and cold. You understand only parts of his words, but the rhythm carries you. It is a story, one he has told many times, judging by the familiarity in everyone's faces. The tale speaks of fire itself, how it first came to humans, and how it must be kept alive with care. According to his telling, the fire was born from the heart of the earth. It slept beneath the rocks until lightning cracked them open. The first people, lost in cold and darkness, found the glowing stone and learned to feed it air and wood. The elder's hands move as he speaks, tracing the dance of flames in the air. The story turns the ordinary into something sacred. Many archaeologists believe that stories like this formed the roots of religion, small myths told to explain the forces of nature. The power of fire, the movement of stars, the cycles of animals all became voices of unseen beings. You can feel that sense of wonder now, listening to the elder's words. He is not teaching facts, he is giving meaning to the world. The story grows quieter. He tells of a time when the fire grew weak because people forgot to honor it. The cold returned, and the spirits of the storm swept through the valleys. The people nearly perished before one woman climbed a mountain to relight the sacred flame. When she returned, her hands were burned, but the fire lived again. The tribe learned that to care for the flame was to care for themselves. You feel the warmth of the fire against your skin, its glow pulsing gently. The elder's voice fades into silence for a moment. Then he looks around the circle, his gaze resting on each person before him. He says something you cannot fully translate, but the meaning feels clear. The fire is alive because you are. Some researchers believe that early belief systems were less about worship and more about gratitude. People did not see gods as distant but as close and personal, tied to the land and the elements. The flame in front of you seems to confirm that. It feels like a living thing, both fragile and eternal. A curious find from one cave in Eastern Europe supports this idea. Charred stones arranged in deliberate circles were discovered beside painted symbols that resemble hands reaching upward. Scientists argue over whether this was ritual or coincidence. Some say the circles mark early altars, others think they were used for warmth. The debate remains unresolved, but when you see the elder lifting his hands toward the fire, palms open in thanks, the pattern makes sense. Ritual is born from repetition and reverence. He begins to hum softly, a sound that blends with the crackling flames. The others join in, their voices rising and falling together. It is not a song in any formal sense. It is a vibration of breath and gratitude. The sound fills the cave until the walls seem to hum back. You join without thinking, the tone deep in your chest. The fire flickers higher, and for a moment you believe it truly listens. The hum slows, then stops. Silence follows, soft and powerful. The only sound left is the slow crackle of the wood. The elder leans forward, taking a small piece of charcoal from the fire. He draws a dark line across the floor, connecting the hearth to the cave entrance. Then he looks at you and gestures for you to finish the line. You kneel, pick up a charred stick, and complete the mark, your hand trembling slightly. He smiles faintly and places his hand over yours for a moment. The gesture feels like initiation, though no words make it official. It is as if you have joined a lineage of caretakers stretching back beyond memory. You understand now. The fire is not merely for warmth or light. It is history, passed from one hand to the next. The elder leans back and closes his eyes, satisfied. The others whisper quietly, settling again around the flames. A few add wood, careful not to smother the glow. You watch the smoke twist upward into the dark ceiling, where it disappears like thought itself. Later, after everyone has fallen asleep, you remain awake. The fire continues its slow breathing, red and gold. You think about the story, the woman who carried flame through the storm, the lesson of remembering to honor what sustains you. You reach out your hand and let the heat brush your fingertips. It is alive, yes, but it is also fragile. Without attention, it dies. Without care, warmth fades. You realize that this is the foundation of faith, to believe that small acts of care can keep the world from falling apart. Feeding the fire, watching the sky, sharing food, telling stories, each act a thread holding chaos at bay. You add one more stick to the flame. It catches quickly, bright and clear. The shadows leap higher on the walls, dancing in familiar shapes. People, animals, mountains, and the endless snow beyond. For a moment, it feels as if everything, the tribe, the cave, the fire itself is connected by a single heartbeat. You sit quietly, letting that thought settle. The cold outside is still infinite, but inside, the light feels enough. The fire hums its low song of survival, and you hum with it, softly, until sleep finds you again. Morning arrives quietly, the light soft and blue. The cave is filled with the gentle smell of smoke and ash. You wake to the sound of boots crunching outside. The air inside is cool but not biting. Someone has already added wood to the fire, and thin smoke trails lazily toward the ceiling. The warmth feels alive again, and you take a slow breath, letting it fill your chest. When you step out, the sky has turned pale grey, heavy with snow that refuses to fall. The wind is calm, the kind of calm that comes before a long storm. You scan the horizon. The white hills roll away into mist, endless and silent. Then you see movement in the distance, a figure walking slowly toward the cave. You tighten your grip on your spear. The figure grows clearer, wrapped in furs and carrying something over one shoulder. It is one of the hunters who left days ago, the one who had gone to track the herds across the frozen plain. His return feels almost unreal. You watch as he draws closer, his steps slow but steady, his breath visible in long white clouds. When he reaches you, he drops to one knee, exhaustion etched into every motion. The bundle he carries is a hide sack filled with meat, his face covered in frost. His eyes are bright with relief. You help him inside, guiding him toward the fire. The others gather, their murmurs soft but filled with joy. The elder smiles faintly, his eyes glistening. The hunter has come back from the wilderness alive. He sits by the fire, holding his hands over the flames. His voice cracks as he begins to speak, telling his story in broken phrases. You listen carefully, filling in what words cannot express. The snow had fallen hard after he left, covering the tracks of the herd. He followed faint signs for 2 days, through wind and hunger, until he reached a valley where mammoths had once passed. Their trails were frozen into the earth like scars. He hunted smaller game instead, snaring birds and catching fish from a half-frozen stream. His pack, now resting beside the fire, carries the proof of his journey. The group listens in silence. Survival stories are not told for entertainment, here they are lessons. Every word holds knowledge. The hunter describes a place beyond the hills where the snow lies thinner, where the air smells of pine instead of salt. He says he saw marks of other people, old footprints turned to ice. They might have passed weeks ago, or longer. His voice lowers when he speaks of strange shapes he saw in the distance, figures moving against the light, too far to identify. Perhaps another tribe, perhaps shadows. Some scholars studying migration patterns have found evidence that early human groups met rarely, but sometimes exchanged goods or mates when paths crossed. It was both risk and opportunity. When two groups met, they could share knowledge or fight for food. The hunter's tone holds that same uncertainty. His eyes drift toward the cave entrance, as if still expecting to see movement on the horizon. The elder nods slowly. He listens without interruption, then hands the hunter a small piece of roasted meat. The man accepts it, eating in slow, measured bites. The others begin to talk softly, voices rising and falling like wind through dry grass. You notice how they glance toward the cave mouth again and again, their instincts sharpening. The idea of strangers out there unsettles them. In this frozen world, every unknown presence is both hope and danger. After a while, the elder stands and walks toward the wall where the old drawings shimmer in the firelight. He picks up a charred stick and adds new lines to the stone curves for mountains, dots for fire, and small stick-like figures. The new markings expand the map of memory. Each drawing is a message for the future, proof that someone returned. You realize the hunter's story has already become part of your shared history. Later, you sit with the hunter as he drinks from a small bowl of melted snow. His hands still tremble slightly, but there is pride in his eyes. You ask him about the far valley he spoke of. He tells you the ground there was littered with stones blackened by old fires. He had touched one, still faintly warm in the sun. The thought makes your heart tighten. Others have lived, struggled, and perhaps died in those same spaces. The land is filled with ghosts, but also with proof that humanity has never been alone. A curious theory among modern archaeologists suggests that the memory of such encounters may have shaped early myths of spirits or gods. The remnants of distant fires, the sight of old camps, the echo of voices on the wind, each could become a story of beings that once walked there. People needed explanations for presence and absence, for warmth that came from nowhere. Listening to the hunter's words, you can feel the seed of that belief. The tribe prepares food to share with the newcomer. The smell of cooked meat fills the cave. The women hum softly, their song mingling with the rhythm of the fire. The hunter sits between you and the elder, slowly regaining his strength. When he smiles, it is small but real. The warmth of the group surrounds him, just as it did when you first arrived here. Night comes early. The fire burns high again, casting deep orange light across the walls. The hunter finishes his tale, describing one last thing. On his journey home, he saw the northern sky shimmer with light, green and white ribbons moving across the darkness, silent but alive. The tribe listens in awe. Some glance upward, as if expecting to see it through the stone ceiling. You have heard of such lights before, faint stories passed through generations. Later people will call them auroras, born of the sun's invisible winds. But here, in this world, they are spirits, fires of the sky dancing to remind the living that the heavens watch. The elder murmurs softly that it is a sign of welcome, a promise that the hunter's path was blessed. The group falls silent, each person lost in thought. For a long moment, even the fire seems to listen. When the story ends, you lie back on your bedding. The flames flicker gently, shadows swaying across the cave walls. You close your eyes and picture the lights moving in the sky, their glow sweeping across endless snowfields. You imagine travelers miles away pausing to watch the same lights, their hearts lifted the same way. The thought warms you in a way the fire cannot. The hunter sleeps at last, his face calm. The elder sits near the embers, humming a tune older than memory. You listen, and it feels like a prayer for everyone who has ever walked into the snow and returned. Outside, the wind rises again, brushing against the entrance with a soft, sighing sound. You know tomorrow will bring new challenges, new journeys, new cold. But tonight, there is peace inside the cave. The fire burns steady, the tribe rests, and far above, the sky carries its silent, glowing flame. Morning breaks softly, with light so faint it barely touches the horizon. The air feels still, suspended between calm and change. You wake to the sound of crackling wood and the low murmur of voices. The hunter who returned yesterday is already awake, his breath steady now, his strength restored. The others prepare to move again, gathering furs, tools, and bundles of dried meat. The elder sits by the fire, tracing lines in the ash with a stick. It is time to migrate. The storm has passed, and the world beyond the cave waits. You can sense it in everyone's movements, the quiet urgency, the practiced rhythm. The Ice Age does not allow anyone to stay still for long. When the herds move, the people must follow. The caves, the fires, even the memories must travel. Archaeological studies of prehistoric tribes show that mobility was the key to survival. Families followed animal migrations and seasonal cycles, sometimes traveling hundreds of miles in a single year. Their footprints, preserved in layers of ancient mud and ice, reveal small groups moving together across vast distances. Migration was not adventure, it was the pattern of breath itself. You pack your belongings carefully. A few bone tools, a rolled hide, and a pouch of herbs. The woman who sleeps beside you helps tighten the leather straps across your shoulders. Her movements are efficient, calm. You exchange a small glance, no words, only trust. Around you, the others work in silence, the sound of preparation filling the cave like music. When you step outside, the morning light stings your eyes. The air feels sharp and new. Snow crunches beneath your boots, and the sky stretches wide, an unbroken grey dome above the white world. The wind smells faintly of distant pine and stone. For a moment, you turn back to look at the cave. Smoke still rises from the fire within, a final thread of warmth curling into the cold air. You know it will fade soon, but its memory will remain. The group begins to move, led by the elder and the strongest hunters. You fall into step beside them, your breath forming pale clouds. The snow lies uneven, shallow in some places, deep in others. Each step requires care. You follow the faint path left by reindeer tracks, a natural guide across the landscape. The first hours pass in silence. Only the sound of crunching snow and the low whistle of wind fill the air. The rhythm becomes hypnotic, your thoughts drifting with your footsteps. You imagine how many others have walked like this before you, how many feet have pressed into the same frozen earth, leaving trails that vanish before anyone can find them. Some scientists studying migration routes suggest that humans of the Ice Age followed the same animal paths for generations. The land itself became a living memory, marked not by maps or borders but by the instincts passed down from parent to child. Even without words, people knew the direction of safety. You glance toward the elder. His pace is slow but steady, his fur cloak heavy with frost. He stops occasionally to test the wind or study the horizon. Once, he kneels to touch the ground, pressing his palm against the snow as if listening. The rest of you wait in silence. When he stands again, he points east, toward a line of dark trees far away. You nod and continue. Hours later, the sun emerges weakly behind the clouds, spreading pale gold across the snow. The forest ahead grows clearer, its trees heavy with ice. The air smells faintly of sap. When you finally reach the first trunks, relief passes through the group like a quiet wave. The forest means wood for fire, shelter from wind, and the promise of food. You walk beneath the canopy, the snow muffling your steps. Branches creak above you, and the occasional drop of melting ice falls onto your shoulders. The air feels warmer here, held close by the trees. You can almost forget the emptiness of the plain behind you. Inside the forest, you find traces of other life. A bird's feather caught in a low branch, small paw prints weaving through the snow. The scent of resin thickens as you move deeper. The forest is not silent, it breathes. Some researchers believe that humans formed spiritual connections to forests long before agriculture began. The sense of enclosure, of being surrounded by life, brought both comfort and awe. In ancient songs and carvings, trees often symbolized safety, endurance, or even ancestors. Standing here now, you understand why. Each tree feels older than memory, its roots holding the earth together. The group stops to rest near a clearing where sunlight filters through the branches. The hunters begin to set traps made of twisted sinew, while others gather fallen wood. The elder sits beside a tree, resting his back against its rough bark. You sit near him, letting the quiet sink in. He reaches down and picks up a pine cone, turning it slowly in his hand. You watch as he studies it, then crushes it gently to release the scent. The air fills with the sharp fragrance of sap and resin. He smiles faintly, as if reminded of something distant. An unusual archaeological find once revealed that prehistoric people sometimes carried pieces of wood or pine resin with them on long migrations. The resin may have been used as glue or fire starter, but some scientists believe it also held symbolic meaning, a portable piece of home. You look at the elder's pine cone and wonder if it will join the small bundle of keepsakes he always carries. Later, when the traps are set and the fires are lit, you sit beside the woman again. The light filtering through the trees has turned golden now, casting long shadows across the snow. She hums softly as she mends her gloves, the tune faint and familiar. You join in without thinking. The forest seems to echo your voices, the sound carried gently through the branches. As night falls, the temperature drops again, but the forest shields you from the wind. The group builds small fires between the trees, the flames flickering like stars among the trunks. You watch the light dance, remembering the cave behind you and the promise of more journeys ahead. The elder begins to speak softly, telling another story. This one is about the spirits of the forest, who guide travelers that respect the land. He says that when you listen closely, the trees answer with creaks and whispers. You tilt your head and hear it too, a low sound, not wind, but something alive. You lie back, watching the thin canopy above you. The stars blink faintly through the gaps. The trees sway slightly, their movement slow and graceful. You close your eyes and listen. The sound of the forest becomes the sound of breath. You feel small, but not lost. The migration will continue tomorrow. More snow will fall, more valleys will appear. But tonight, you sleep in the heart of the forest, surrounded by the same life that your ancestors once trusted. The air smells of pine and smoke. The ground is cold but kind. And somewhere deep in the woods, the earth itself seems to hum a lullaby older than memory. The dawn light filters through the trees, cold and silver. You open your eyes to the faint hum of wind threading between the trunks. The snow beneath you has hardened overnight, and your breath curls upward like smoke. Around you, the tribe stirs. Fires smolder low, sending thin trails of white into the air. The forest smells of pine sap and ash, alive yet still. You sit up slowly and stretch your arms. The woman beside you yawns, pulling her fur closer around her shoulders. She smiles briefly, her face soft with sleep. The elder is already awake, kneeling near a small fire. He traces patterns in the frost with the end of his staff, quiet and thoughtful. His actions have the weight of ritual, a wordless prayer to greet the sun. You join him, lowering your head in silent respect. The sound of birds breaks the stillness. It is faint but clear, a pair of ravens calling from the treetops. Their voices echo softly through the forest. The elder looks up and murmurs something. A name, perhaps. You remember stories of how ravens were once seen as messengers, creatures that crossed between the living and the unseen. They followed the tribes through storms, circling above camps, their dark wings flashing like shadows of the gods. Archaeological records show that ravens appear often in Ice Age art, carved into bone and etched into cave walls. Some scientists think this was coincidence, the result of observing animals that lingered near human camps. Others believe the birds held symbolic power. After all, ravens thrive in cold and survive on what others leave behind. To the people of the Ice Age, they must have seemed immortal. You watch the pair glide above the trees, black against the grey sky. One dips lower, cawing sharply before vanishing into the mist. The sound leaves a strange calm behind it, like the echo of memory. Breakfast is simple, strips of dried meat warmed over fire, followed by melted snow. The hunters share what little remains of the previous day's catch, saving most for later. No one complains. The taste of warmth itself is enough. You sit near the woman, eating in silence. Her hair smells faintly of smoke and pine. The world feels smaller here in the forest, gentler but still wild. The elder signals that it is time to move again. The group gathers their tools and extinguishes the fires, scattering ashes over the snow to leave no trace. You shoulder your pack and fall into step behind the others. The forest thickens as you walk, the air growing darker beneath the canopy. The sound of your steps blends with the crunch of frost and the creak of bending branches. As the day stretches on, the forest changes. The trees grow denser, their roots twisting out of the ground like the bones of the earth. You notice strange marks on some of the trunks, scratches too high for any small animal. The elder pauses to study one, his brow furrowed. He touches the grooves lightly, then motions for silence. You realize what made them. A bear, large and restless, has passed through this place not long ago. The thought sends a chill through you. The forest suddenly feels closer, every sound sharper, but the elder remains calm. He presses his palm against the tree as if speaking to it, then moves on. You follow quietly. The presence of predators is a reminder that the wilderness does not belong to you alone. Evidence from prehistoric camps suggests that early people often coexisted with large animals at close range. They built their shelters near natural paths, sometimes even near dens, drawn by the same resources: water, shelter, prey. This uneasy coexistence shaped both fear and reverence. Animals were not only threats, they were teachers, symbols, and sometimes ancestors in story. You continue walking until you reach a clearing where sunlight breaks through the clouds. The air feels softer here, and the snow is thin enough to see dark soil beneath. The group stops to rest. You kneel and run your hand through the earth. It feels cold but rich, holding the faint smell of moss and life. You realize that even in the grip of winter, the world sleeps rather than dies. One of the hunters pulls a small pouch from his belt and scatters something across the ground: powdered bone and crushed seeds. A simple offering. The elder nods in approval. You have seen this ritual before, but it never loses its quiet beauty. It is a way of giving thanks for safe passage, of acknowledging the forest's unseen guardians. Modern scholars debate the origins of such rituals. Some think they were early forms of religion, others see them as practical habits meant to reinforce unity. Whatever their meaning, they reflect a truth that still feels alive in this frozen world. Gratitude is survival's companion. You rise and look around the clearing. The trees sway gently, their tops bending with the wind. The light shifts across the snow, turning gold for a moment before fading back to silver. You can hear the faint rustle of leaves and the occasional snap of a branch underfoot. Every sound feels amplified, like the forest itself is breathing with you. As afternoon turns to dusk, you notice the ravens again, circling high above the treetops. Their silhouettes move in slow spirals, watching. The elder looks up at them and smiles faintly. He tells you that ravens guide travelers home, even when they do not know where home lies. His voice is calm, certain. You wonder if he truly believes it, or if he simply wants the others to feel hope. Either way, the story feels like warmth. The group stops for the night near a cluster of fallen trees that form a natural windbreak. Fires are lit again, and the forest glows with soft orange light. Shadows stretch and merge with the trunks. turning the ground into a sea of flickering color. You sit beside one of the fires, holding your hands to the flame. The woman hums a low tune nearby, the same melody she sang the night before. The elder sits across from you, quiet and thoughtful. He lifts his staff and draws small circles in the snow. When he finishes, he looks up and says a few words that sound like a blessing for the journey ahead. The meaning is simple even without translation. You are alive, the world endures, and tomorrow will come. The fires burn low. The forest grows darker, quieter, deeper. You lean against a log, your eyelids heavy. The raven's calls fade into silence. For a moment, you think you hear the trees whisper a soft, rhythmic creaking that sounds almost like voices speaking to one another. You close your eyes. The sound merges with the heartbeat of the fire, with the breathing of those around you, with the pulse of the forest itself. You feel safe, wrapped in its ancient rhythm. Tomorrow you will walk again, but tonight you rest beneath branches that have stood through endless winters, listening to their slow, eternal song. The snow begins again before dawn, falling in soft, silent waves. You wake to the faint hiss of flakes landing on the branches above. The forest feels different today, hushed and watchful. The air carries the scent of frozen pine and wet bark. When you step outside your small shelter of firs and branches, the world looks renewed. Every footprint from the day before has vanished. The others wake slowly, rubbing their eyes, shaking the snow from their clothes. The fires from last night have burned down to glowing embers, and thin threads of smoke curl upward into the cold air. The elder moves among the sleeping spots, checking that everyone is safe. His steps are slow but sure. Even his presence feels like warmth. Breakfast is brief dried meat, melted snow for water, a few berries preserved in animal fat. The taste is sharp and earthy. You eat while the woman beside you ties her boots tighter, her fingers red from the cold. The snow thickens as you move, each flake spinning in lazy circles before settling onto your hair and fur. The sound of breathing, the crunch of boots, and the distant sigh of the wind become the rhythm of the morning. By mid-morning, visibility fades. The snow grows heavier, swirling like smoke through the trees. The forest turns ghostly, its outlines blurred. You can barely see 10 steps ahead. The group slows its pace, moving close together. You feel the pull of fatigue in your legs, but stopping would mean freezing. The elder raises his staff high, using it as a guide through the whiteness. Storms like this define the memory of your world. Archaeological evidence from Ice Age settlements suggests that sudden weather shifts were constant threats. Bones of animals and humans found together in ancient drifts tell silent stories of those who did not make it through. Survival depended not on strength alone, but on the ability to move as one body, one will. You sense that same unity in the group around you. You walk for hours, though time feels meaningless. The forest thins, giving way to open land where the snow falls thicker. Wind begins to build, curling into long, cold fingers that pull at your clothing. You lower your head and push forward, step by step. The noise of the storm swallows everything. Even thought feels distant. When the wind finally begins to ease, you find yourself at the edge of a vast plain. The snow stretches endlessly, rippling like a frozen sea. In the distance, faint shapes rise from the white, a line of dark stones half buried in ice. The elder motions for everyone to follow. You approach slowly, curiosity piercing through exhaustion. As you draw near, the stones reveal themselves to be enormous, upright slabs, arranged in a rough circle. Snow clings to their surfaces, but beneath the frost you can see faint carvings, lines, spirals, and symbols that look like the ones drawn on the cave wall. The elder runs his hand along the nearest stone, whispering something that sounds like recognition. You kneel beside him, brushing snow away to see more. The carvings tell no language you know, yet they speak through form and rhythm. A circle of dots, a figure with outstretched arms, what might be the shape of an animal. Some scientists have found similar monuments scattered across ancient landscapes, older than most known structures. Their purpose remains a mystery. Some believe they marked migration routes or ceremonial grounds. Others think they were memorials for ancestors lost to the ice. The elder kneels and places a piece of charred wood at the base of one stone. The others follow, each offering something: small bone, feather, flint, or a handful of snow. It is a quiet act of gratitude, a promise to remember. You do the same, placing a small piece of fur near the carvings. For a moment, the group stands in stillness, heads bowed, the wind whispering through the circle. You feel an odd pull inside you, a sense of connection beyond time. These stones have seen countless winters. Perhaps others once stood here as you do now, leaving offerings, hoping for protection. The thought humbles you. It also comforts you. You are not the first to endure this, nor will you be the last. The storm begins to ease further, the sky opening just enough for a pale light to shine through. The snow on the stones glows faintly, the carvings catching the light as if alive. The elder lifts his staff again, and you know it is time to move on. Before leaving, you glance back one last time. The circle stands silent but strong, its shadows stretching long across the plain. As you continue walking, the land begins to slope downward. The air grows colder again, the wind sharper. You spot movement near the horizon: herds of reindeer, small dark figures against the snow. Their legs move in perfect rhythm, their breath visible in the air. The hunters in your group stop to watch. Hunger stirs in your belly, but also admiration. These animals are not prey alone. They are guides, travelers of the same road. Evidence shows that early humans depended heavily on reindeer and similar animals during the Ice Age. Their hides became clothing, their bones became tools, their fat became light for lamps. Yet some remains suggest people also buried reindeer skulls near their homes, perhaps as a mark of reverence. The line between hunter and worshipper was thin. You walk until dusk, following the faint movement of the herds. The snow begins to thin near a cluster of rocky ridges. The group stops to make camp among the stones, using them as windbreaks. Fires are lit once again, their glow flickering against the cold rock. The air fills with the smell of smoke and melting frost. You sit close to the flame, hands open to its heat. The elder sits near you, his expression soft but distant. You know he is thinking of the stones, of their meanings lost to time. You ask quietly what they were for. He smiles faintly, shakes his head, and replies with a single phrase. The tone tells you it is an old saying, one that means something like, "For those who will walk after us." The idea stays with you as the night deepens. The fire hums softly, and the stars appear above the clouds, faint and cold. You look at them for a long time, tracing shapes as your ancestors once did. The air feels clearer now, the storm a memory already fading. The stones behind you stand silent in the dark, keeping their ancient watch. You pull your fur tighter around your shoulders and lie down beside the fire. The snow has stopped falling. The land is still again, waiting. Somewhere in that stillness, you sense the presence of those who came before, their footsteps buried but never lost. The air is quiet again, sharp and thin. Morning arrives slowly, wrapped in fog that clings to the ridges like breath. You wake with stiffness in your limbs and frost on your eyelashes. The fire beside you is only a memory of warmth now, a circle of ash faintly smoking in the cold. The tribe stirs around you, their movements silent but sure. No one speaks yet. The dawn is sacred in its stillness. You rise and walk to the edge of the ridge. The world below spreads wide and white, an ocean of frozen light. The horizon glows faintly pink, where the sun tries to break through the haze. You breathe in deeply, tasting the faint sweetness of pine carried from distant forests. The valley stretches ahead like a path waiting to be written upon. The elder joins you. His face is pale beneath his hood, but his eyes are clear. He stands beside you in silence for a while, then gestures toward the horizon. It is time to move again. The tribe gathers what remains of the camp. Fires are doused, ashes scattered, stones replaced. The youngest members carry bundles of hide and tools. The hunters shoulder their spears and bows. You check your gear, pulling your furs tighter and adjusting the straps on your pack. The woman who walks beside you ties a strip of cloth around her wrist, a small charm woven with beads of bone. When she notices you looking, she smiles and touches it gently. You realize it is a symbol of protection, a gift from someone long gone. The group begins its slow march down the slope. The snow beneath your feet crunches softly, and the wind hums low through the rocks. The path curves downward into the valley, where faint shapes of trees shimmer through the mist. It feels like stepping into another world. As you walk, the sound of the herd returns. Faint at first, then stronger, the rhythmic crack of hooves against ice. The reindeer are moving east, a dark, flowing river of life across the plain. The hunters quicken their pace, eyes alert, bodies tense with hunger and anticipation. The elder raises his hand, motioning for quiet. You all crouch low, watching the distant movement. Reindeer migrations were the lifeline of Ice Age peoples. Archaeological evidence shows that entire communities followed these herds year after year, mapping their movements through generations. The animals provided not only food but rhythm, a heartbeat that marked the seasons. The people followed that pulse the way modern hearts follow breath. The hunters prepare quickly, moving with precision and respect. One checks his spear, another adjusts a sling made of twisted sinew. You stay beside the elder, watching as they spread out across the ridge. The snow glints faintly under their feet, each step deliberate and quiet. You can feel the air tighten around you, every sound magnified. Below, the herd moves in graceful waves. Their fur catches the light, and their breath rises in soft clouds. You can see calves among them, smaller, hesitant, sticking close to their mothers. The lead hunter signals. The others move like shadows through the snow, circling downwind. You watch as they take position, patience etched into every motion. It happens fast. A sudden shout breaks the silence, followed by the whoosh of a spear cutting through air. The herd explodes into motion, snow spraying upward as the animals run. The world fills with sound thunder of hooves, cries of hunters, the wild heartbeat of pursuit. You grip your spear but stay close to the elder, waiting. Two hunters bring down a reindeer near the edge of the valley. The rest of the herd vanishes into the mist, their echoes fading like ghosts. The hunters approach the fallen animal with care. They kneel beside it, laying their hands on its flank in silent respect before beginning their work. You and the others move closer, your breath coming hard from the cold. What follows is not chaos but ritual. Every movement has purpose. One cuts the hide cleanly, another collects the blood in a shallow bowl carved from bone. The elder murmurs something under his breath, a blessing for balance. Nothing will be wasted. The meat will feed, the bones will build, the hide will clothe, even the tendons will become thread. There is a quiet beauty in the precision of it all. Some modern historians argue that such hunts were not only acts of necessity but of ceremony. They believe early humans saw each kill as a renewal of the bond between life and death. To take an animal was to promise its spirit that nothing would be forgotten. Watching now, you feel that truth deeply. The hunters finish their work as the light fades. The meat is wrapped in hides and carried carefully between them. The elder walks last, tracing a line in the snow with the end of his staff. You notice the shape he leaves behind, a curve, then a spiral. You have seen it before, on the walls of the cave and on the stones in the valley. A symbol of life turning upon itself, of cycles repeating. When the group returns to camp, the fires are already lit. The smell of smoke mixes with the sharp scent of blood and hide. The woman you know best takes a piece of the hide and begins to stretch it near the flames, her fingers quick and strong. You sit beside her, helping where you can, pulling the fibers taut until they are ready to dry. Later, the first pieces of cooked meat are shared. The flavor is rich, smoky, heavy with gratitude. You eat slowly, the warmth spreading through your chest. Around you, the tribe murmurs softly, laughter rising in small bursts. The elder watches them all, his expression calm and distant. When your eyes meet, he nods once. The night deepens. Stars appear faintly above the drifting clouds. The wind carries a sound like distant singing, the hum of the ice shifting somewhere far below the ground. It reminds you of the cave, of the fire's rhythm, of all the small sounds that hold meaning in silence. You lie down beside the fire, the snow glowing faintly beyond the circle of light. The reindeer hide beneath you still smells of earth and life. The stars above shimmer with a cold fire of their own. You realize that, like the animals you follow, you are part of the same great rhythm, the endless movement between hunger and fullness, danger and safety, death and rebirth. You close your eyes. The fire crackles softly beside you, and the elder's voice drifts through your mind, quiet and steady. His words are a memory now, but they guide you still. Keep the fire alive, and it will keep you. The snow falls gently over the camp, covering footprints, softening the edges of the world. The night is vast, but within this small circle of warmth, you feel eternal. The air smells of smoke and fresh snow when you wake. The world beyond the fire is still and grey, the faintest wind whispering across the plain. The reindeer hide beneath you is stiff with frost, but your body feels strong, rested. You sit up and watch the fire, its last coals glowing faintly like the eyes of something ancient. Around you, the tribe begins to move. The hunters prepare to pack the meat from yesterday's kill. The women roll the hides into neat bundles, and the elder stands at the edge of camp, gazing toward the horizon. The sky is shifting again. A pale light glows from behind the clouds, spreading slowly, uncertainly. It is not the full sun, only its reflection through a curtain of mist, but it feels like a promise. You follow the elder's gaze and see the faint shimmer of distant ice cliffs. The sight fills you with quiet awe. They look eternal, carved from frozen time itself. You begin to help pack the camp. The woman beside you hums softly as she works, her breath forming clouds in the air. The sound comforts you. Every task here, even the smallest, becomes a rhythm. You tie the bundles with sinew, your fingers numb but precise. The tools, the food, the firestones, each has its place. Nothing is left behind. When the last pack is tied, the elder raises his hand, signaling the beginning of the journey. You fall into line behind him, following the narrow trail between the rocks. The wind picks up as you descend into the open plain again. The snow crunches beneath your boots in soft, steady rhythm. The air tastes of salt and ice, heavy but clean. The plain stretches for miles without shape or sound. Only the faint line of the ice cliffs ahead breaks the monotony. You walk for hours. The cold presses deep into your bones, but you do not stop. The world here is endless, but walking gives it meaning. Every step writes another line into a story told without words. According to researchers who study Ice Age migrations, groups like yours often followed frozen riverbeds or glacier edges for guidance. These natural landmarks provided direction, water, and sometimes shelter in their crevices. The same rivers that nourished animals also shaped the roots of humans. You can see how that would be true. The ground beneath your feet dips gently now, forming a frozen channel lined with smooth stones. It feels like following an invisible map written by nature itself. As the day wears on, the light grows dim again. The sun sinks behind a curtain of clouds, leaving the sky painted in shades of grey and blue. You stop only once to drink from melted snow. The taste is clean and sharp, colder than thought. Then you continue. By afternoon, the wind begins to rise. Snow swirls around your legs, erasing your footprints almost as soon as you make them. The cold stings your cheeks, but the movement keeps you warm. The elder moves with surprising endurance for his age, his staff tapping the ground in slow rhythm. The woman beside you pulls her hood tighter, her breath quick and even. The tribe moves together like a single body, bound by shared purpose. When the wind finally settles, you find yourself standing before the cliffs. Their walls rise high, glittering like glass. The air near them feels colder, yet strangely still. You reach out to touch the ice. It is smooth and hard as stone. Beneath the surface, you can see faint lines, air bubbles trapped for centuries, tiny worlds suspended in silence. The elder gestures for the group to gather. He speaks softly, his words low and measured. You do not catch every phrase, but the tone carries reverence. This place holds power. It is both barrier and memory, an edge between what can be reached and what cannot. Some archaeologists believe that glaciers like these inspired the earliest myths of boundaries between life and death. The shimmering walls, the constant sound of cracking ice, and the way the cliffs swallowed light, all gave the illusion of another world just beyond reach. Listening to the faint creaks and sighs of the ice now, you understand why. It sounds alive, like a giant breathing slowly beneath the surface. You follow a narrow path along the base of the cliffs. The sound of dripping water echoes faintly, rhythmic and soft. At one point, the elder stops and kneels beside a hollow in the ice. He gestures for you to look. Inside, frozen in perfect clarity, is the shape of a small plant, its leaves green, its stem delicate. You stare, amazed. The elder smiles faintly and touches the ice with his fingertips, then gestures to his chest. You understand his meaning. Life endures, even when trapped by time. The group moves on until the cliffs open into a shallow cave carved by meltwater. The space is wide enough for everyone to rest. You build fires quickly, the warmth filling the hollow with a gentle glow. The flames reflect off the ice walls, creating an illusion of moving light all around you. It feels like sitting inside a living lantern. The elder sits near one of the fires and removes a small object from his pouch, a curved fragment of ivory, carved with swirling patterns. He holds it up, letting the firelight trace its surface. The group watches in silence. He begins to speak, his voice steady. Though you understand little of his words, the tone feels like storytelling. Perhaps he is explaining where the carving came from, or the meaning of its patterns. Artifacts like the one in his hands have been found buried deep in Ice Age layers, decorated tools, small figurines, and etched bones. Some scholars believe they carried symbolic power, serving as talismans for protection or remembrance. Others think they were simple art, the earliest evidence of the human need to create beauty even in desolation. As you watch the elder's hands turning the ivory, both ideas feel true. He passes the carving around the fire. When it reaches you, you hold it gently, tracing the lines with your thumb. The grooves are shallow but precise, forming spirals that seem to move as you turn them in the light. You imagine the hands that made it long ago, carving patiently by firelight, believing the object could hold warmth or wisdom. You hand it to the woman beside you, and she smiles faintly before passing it on. Outside, the snow falls harder again, but inside the hollow, the firelight flickers softly against the ice. The warmth of bodies, the rhythm of voices, and the sound of cracking wood fill the space with life. You feel the exhaustion of the journey begin to fade, replaced by quiet peace. The elder hums a slow melody, low and deep. The sound reverberates through the ice, echoing softly. The walls seem to respond, humming back. The entire space becomes music, a symphony of breath and flame. You close your eyes, listening. The fire crackles, the wind outside sighs, and somewhere deep within the glacier, water moves unseen. For a brief moment, you feel that you are part of something eternal, the endless circle of movement, survival, and memory. When you finally lie down beside the fading fire, your reflection shimmers faintly on the ice wall. Your face, the elder's face, the others all mirrored in the shifting light. The boundary between past and present blurs, and you understand what the elder meant when he touched the frozen plant. Nothing is ever truly lost, only waiting to awaken again. You let your eyes close, the hum of ice filling your ears. The glacier keeps breathing, slow and steady, and you breathe with it, part of its ancient rhythm. The morning light creeps slowly through the opening of the ice cave. soft and pale as milk. The air feels heavy with stillness, and the faint crack of shifting ice echoes deep within the cliffs. You open your eyes and see the fire burn down to small glowing coals. The warmth still lingers, caught in the hollow of the glacier like a memory refusing to fade. You rise carefully, stretching stiff muscles. The ground beneath you is slick and hard, your breath visible in the dim light. The elder is already awake, crouched near the entrance, his face calm and intent as he studies the horizon. The others begin to stir, their movements slow but steady. The woman beside you yawns softly, her eyes half closed, then smiles faintly when she notices you watching. Outside, the world has changed again. The snow has stopped falling, and the sky shines pale gold through a thin mist. You can see the plains stretching out beyond the ice cliffs, rippled and endless. The storm has passed, leaving silence so complete that even the sound of your heartbeat feels too loud. You step outside, the cold biting gently at your skin. The surface of the glacier gleams like glass under the light. Tiny streams of meltwater trace winding paths down the ice, freezing again as they touch the air. Each droplet catches the light like a tiny star. You kneel and run your hand along the surface. The ice hums faintly under your palm, alive with the slow pulse of the earth. Some scientists studying ancient glaciers have noted that the movement of ice, though imperceptible to the human eye, produces vibrations that can be felt when one listens closely. To people of the Ice Age, such sounds might have seemed like voices of the world itself. Standing here, you can imagine believing that the earth is speaking, its breath hidden inside the frozen walls. The elder joins you, resting one hand against the ice. He closes his eyes and stands still for a long time. When he opens them, he gestures toward the distant plains. It is time to move again. The tribe gathers what little they carried into the cave, wrapping it in hides. The hunters adjust their weapons, testing the points of their spears. You pull your hood close and fall in line as the group begins its slow descent from the glacier. The path is narrow, carved by meltwater and wind. The ice glints in the weak light, each step echoing faintly. The air grows warmer as you descend, the temperature changing with every few paces. By the time you reach the plain below, the snow feels softer, almost slushy beneath your boots. You can smell damp earth beneath the frost, a faint, living scent. For the first time in weeks, you see open water. A shallow stream winds through the plain, its surface half frozen, half liquid. The sight feels miraculous. The group stops in silence, staring. The woman beside you laughs quietly, a sound of pure relief. The hunters kneel and dip their hands into the water, drinking deeply. The cold stings your lips as you do the same, but the taste is sweet and fresh, like memory itself. Archaeological evidence suggests that during rare warm spells, melting glaciers revealed hidden rivers and valleys. These brief windows of gentler weather allowed people to travel farther and find new hunting grounds. The discovery of fresh water could mean the difference between death and another season of life. The elder kneels by the stream, filling a hollow bone with water. He sprinkles a few drops onto the ground before drinking. You recognize the gesture now, thanks given to the land. Every sip is an exchange, a promise not to forget what sustains you. The group moves along the stream, following its winding path through the plain. The ice cliffs behind you fade into the mist. The landscape opens wide, filled with pale light and silence. You walk for hours, listening to the soft murmur of water beside you. The sound feels strange after so many days of wind and storm. It is gentle, rhythmic, like breathing. In the distance, you spot something dark, half buried in snow. You approach carefully, curiosity sharp. As the others gather behind you, the shape becomes clear, a massive skull, curved and heavy, its long tusks gleaming white in the light. A mammoth, long dead but preserved by the cold. You kneel beside it, brushing away snow. The surface feels smooth beneath your hand. The elder steps forward and rests his palm on the bone. His eyes close for a moment, and you sense reverence in his stillness. Mammoths were more than prey to people of this time. They were builders, providers, symbols of power. Every part of them, meat, hide, bone, served a purpose. But even more than that, they were memory itself. Some of the oldest human dwellings discovered by archaeologists were made from mammoth bones, arranged carefully to form walls and roofs. The creature's strength quite literally became shelter for the living. The hunters begin to examine the remains, taking what they can. You help pry loose a rib the size of your arm, its surface smooth and pale. It will make a fine spear shaft or tool. The elder collects a handful of hair from the snow and ties it to his staff. You realize he is marking the journey again, carrying with him the memory of every encounter. When the group moves on, the skull remains behind, half buried but luminous in the pale sun. You glance back once and feel a strange connection, as if some part of the creature still lingers, watching. By late afternoon, the light begins to fade again. You stop to make camp near a rise in the land, where rocks provide a shield from the wind. Fires are lit, their smoke rising gently into the grey sky. The air smells of wet earth and melting frost. You sit near the flame, holding your hands close to the warmth. The woman sits beside you, her face tired but serene. She pulls the charm from her wrist and places it between you. You look at it, a small braid of sinew with 3 beads of carved bone. She smiles and nods, urging you to take it. You hesitate, then close your hand around it. The charm is light but warm from her touch. You slip it around your wrist, feeling its weight settle like a promise. Night deepens. The wind quiets, leaving only the sound of crackling fire and the faint murmur of the stream. The elder sits apart from the group, staring at the horizon. His expression is thoughtful, as if listening to something far away. You wonder if he hears the same low hum of the earth that you felt in the glacier, that strange heartbeat beneath the ice. When you finally lie down to sleep, the charm presses lightly against your wrist, its warmth steady. The firelight flickers on your face, and you close your eyes. The sound of flowing water and the slow breathing of the tribe blend together, forming a single, ancient rhythm. You drift toward dreams, carrying the image of the mammoth skull, the whisper of the ice, and the faint pulse of the living world beneath it all. In your dream, the glacier breathes once more, and the earth answers. The dawn comes quietly, the light soft and gold against the horizon. You wake to the crackle of fire and the scent of damp earth. The air feels warmer than before, the snow beginning to melt into tiny rivulets that trickle through the rocks. The ground beneath your sleeping furs is no longer frozen solid but moist, alive again after its long sleep. When you sit up, a thin mist rises around you, glowing faintly in the early light. The others are already moving. The hunters sharpen their spears, their faces calm and focused. The elder sits nearby, holding his staff upright in the soil. The woman stirs a pot of melted snow mixed with bits of dried meat and herbs. The smell is rich and comforting. You stretch your arms and breathe deeply, feeling warmth in your chest that is not just from the fire. The world around you looks different today. The long white plains have softened into shades of grey and brown. The snow is receding in patches, revealing stones, grass, and small pools of clear water. You can hear the distant rush of a river, faint but steady. The air carries the scent of life. Somewhere, a bird calls, a high sound that cuts cleanly through the morning air. It is the first birdsong you have heard in months. Everyone stops for a moment to listen. The sound feels like a miracle. Scientists studying Ice Age transitions have found that brief thaws like this happened often, short-lived but powerful enough to transform the land. Rivers would wake, animals would return, and plants would push through the snow before the cold reclaimed everything. These moments of renewal offered both hope and danger. Hope, because food became easier to find. Danger, because melting ice brought floods and unstable ground. You can feel both truths in the air today. The elder rises slowly, brushing ash from his cloak. He gestures toward the sound of the river, and the tribe begins to gather their things. It is time to follow the water. The group moves in calm rhythm, leaving behind only faint footprints that will vanish when the snow melts fully. You walk beside the woman, her charm still tied around your wrist. The air feels almost soft now, filled with moisture and promise. As you move across the plain, the sound of water grows louder until you see it. A wide river cutting through the valley, its surface shining like glass. The edges are lined with patches of dark earth and sprouting reeds. The river bends and twists, vanishing into the mist beyond. The sight steals your breath. After so much white and silence, the movement feels alive, like the world itself is waking. The group stops at the river's edge. The elder kneels, cupping water in his hands, and drinks slowly. You do the same. The taste is sharp, sweet, filled with minerals and cold memory. You can feel it slide through you like clarity. The hunters begin to scout along the bank, looking for signs of fish or game. The rest of you set about building a small camp. The sound of rushing water becomes the heartbeat of the day. Some archaeologists believe that rivers were more than survival routes to ancient people. They were boundaries, symbols, and teachers. The constant motion reminded them that life was not meant to stay still. To follow a river was to follow the flow of time itself. You can sense that same pull now, a quiet invitation to keep moving forward, even as the world shifts around you. By midday, the hunters return with a small catch of fish. The tribe gathers near the fire to cook them, the smell filling the air. The woman laughs softly as she holds one over the flames, teasing a child who tries to grab a piece too soon. The elder watches with gentle amusement. You realize it has been days since anyone laughed freely. The sound of joy feels strange at first, then right. It feels like home. After the meal, the elder calls the group together. He speaks for a long time, his voice low but strong. Though you cannot understand every word, the rhythm carries meaning. He points toward the river, then toward the horizon. His gestures tell a story of movement and continuation, of how the tribe must keep following the water until it leads them to new land. You sense both hope and farewell in his tone. Historians often discuss how leadership in prehistoric societies was shaped not by power, but by wisdom and age. The elder's strength lies not in his body, but in his memory. He is the bridge between generations, carrying the lessons of survival like fire from one place to the next. Watching him now, you understand that his guidance is not command but trust. The tribe moves because they believe in him, because his calm gives shape to fear. As the afternoon fades, the group begins to gather reeds and branches to build simple shelters near the river. You help weave a frame of sticks, covering it with hides. The structure is crude but sturdy, enough to break the wind. When you finish, you sit inside for a moment, listening to the sound of water nearby. The rhythmic flow feels almost like speech, a language of movement and patience. The woman joins you, sitting close enough that your shoulders touch. She speaks softly, pointing at the horizon where the clouds have begun to part. A faint streak of sunlight shines through, golden and pure. You nod, smiling. For a moment, the cold and hardship feel distant, replaced by quiet wonder. The world is still vast and dangerous, but it no longer feels empty. As evening comes, the tribe lights small fires along the riverbank. The flames flicker against the dark water, their reflections rippling like scattered stars. The elder sits beside the largest fire, his hands resting on his knees. He begins to hum, low and steady, and soon others join him. The sound rises and falls like the current, a song of endurance and gratitude. You add your voice quietly, the warmth of the fire soft against your face. The stars appear one by one as the sky clears. Their light dances on the surface of the river. You look up and think of how many others before you have watched these same stars, searching for meaning in their patterns. Some scientists suggest that early people used constellations to track seasons or migrations, but maybe they also saw them as reminders that light survives even in the deepest night. The elder's song fades, and silence returns. The fires burn low. The woman leans against your shoulder, her breath slow and even. You feel the charm against your wrist, still warm from the day. You listen to the river's murmur, its rhythm endless and kind. The world no longer feels hostile, it feels alive, breathing with you. You close your eyes and drift towards sleep. The river sings softly, carrying your thoughts like small leaves downstream. The sound becomes your heartbeat, steady and eternal. The morning light shimmers on the river like threads of silver. You wake to the gentle sound of water lapping against the bank. The air is cool but no longer biting. The wind soft enough to move the reeds without breaking them. For the first time in many days, the sun rises unobstructed, spreading gold across the plains. You stretch, feeling warmth on your face, the kind that feels almost like a promise of spring. The tribe is already awake. The hunters stand by the water's edge, watching for movement beneath the surface. Children chase one another near the fire, their laughter echoing faintly across the valley. The elder sits on a flat stone, his staff resting across his knees. His eyes are distant, thoughtful, watching the sunlight dance on the rippling water. You sit beside him, silent for a long while. The two of you listen to the sounds of morning, the crackle of the fire, the splash of fish, the rhythmic beat of wings as a small flock of birds passes overhead. Then the elder speaks, his voice soft but clear. You understand enough to know that he is speaking about journeys, about what lies ahead. His tone carries both peace and inevitability. You can sense that his strength is waning, though his spirit burns steady. In many early societies, the elder was both leader and living memory. Their passing marked not an ending but a continuation, a turning of the wheel. Archaeologists have found graves carefully prepared with tools, pigments, and offerings, suggesting that even then, people believed in something beyond death. Perhaps not heaven or gods as you know them now, but a return to the earth, to the elements that sustained them. You glance at the elder's hands, steady despite the cold. He reaches down, scoops a handful of river water, and lets it trickle through his fingers. "The river forgets nothing," he murmurs, the words simple but heavy. Then he smiles, faint and content. You realize this journey has always been about more than survival. It has been about memory, carried through movement and story. The hunters return with a small catch. The tribe gathers to share the meal, sitting in a loose circle by the fire. The woman sits beside you, brushing a strand of hair from her eyes. Her smile is tired but full of light. The food is simple roasted fish and foraged roots, but it tastes richer than anything you can remember. Every bite feels like gratitude. As you eat, the elder tells one last story. His voice is slower now, but every word carries the calm of someone who has seen everything twice. He speaks of the beginning, when the world was ice and fire, and people were shaped from the breath of both. He says that every human carries within them a small flame from that first fire, and that to live well is to keep it alive no matter how cold the world becomes. No one interrupts. Even the wind grows quiet as if listening. The flames cast long, trembling shadows across the ground. When he finishes, he looks around the circle, meeting each gaze in turn. His eyes linger on you for a moment longer, and you know what he is saying without words. The fire continues through those who remember. As the sun begins to set, the group prepares to move once more. The elder insists on walking, leaning lightly on his staff. The path follows the river downstream, where the water flows smoother and the land grows darker with soil. You walk beside him, matching his pace. The air smells of wet grass and melting ice. It feels like the earth itself is exhaling after a long sleep. By dusk, you reach a new clearing where the river bends sharply between two rocky hills. The group makes camp there. Fires are lit again, their light mirrored in the water. The sky above glows deep violet, scattered with stars. You sit beside the elder one final time. He is quiet now, his gaze fixed on the flames. The others settle nearby, their movements slow and reverent. He closes his eyes and whispers something that sounds like a prayer, though you do not recognize the words. His breathing slows, blending with the sound of the river. Then, Like a candle's final flicker, he is still. The firelight dances across his face, soft and peaceful. The woman takes your hand, her grip firm and steady. The rest of the tribe bows their heads. No one weeps. Instead, they sing softly a low, continuous hum that rises with the wind. You understand now that his journey has ended exactly where it was meant to. The river carries his memory forward, the fire keeps his warmth alive, and the stories he told will travel farther than his body ever could. You close your eyes and listen to the song, letting it sink deep into your bones. Later, when the fire burns low, you take the elder's staff and plant it in the earth beside the river. The water laps gently against its base, catching the reflection of the stars. You whisper a quiet goodbye, though it feels more like thank you. The wind answers with a soft sigh through the reeds. You lie back beside the fire, watching the sky. The stars seem closer now, glowing brighter with every breath. The woman sleeps beside you, her hand resting over yours. The charm on your wrist glints faintly in the light, its warmth still steady. You breathe in the scent of smoke and water and earth, and for the first time, the night feels kind. The cold has not vanished, but it no longer frightens you. The storm, the hunger, the endless movement, all of it feels distant now, part of a greater rhythm that you have finally come to understand. Life continues, fragile but unbroken, carried by those who remember and those who will come after. The fire hums softly, the river murmurs, and your heartbeat slows. You let your eyes close. The world fades into warmth and quiet, like sinking into the arms of time itself. The night drifts deeper, folding the camp in silence. The river keeps its rhythm, steady and unhurried, carrying light across its surface. The fires have burned down to glowing embers, faint stars against the earth. You lie still, breathing slowly, your body melting into the warmth that remains. The air around you feels softer now, like a blanket of breath and memory. You can hear every small sound, the sigh of the wind in the reeds, the crack of cooling wood, the quiet murmur of water against stone. It is as if the world is whispering that everything is all right, that everything has always been all right. Your mind drifts, weightless. The hardships of the journey blur into fragments of light. The snowstorm, the fire, the songs in the cave, the elders' calm eyes. Each memory glows softly before dissolving into the next. The rhythm of the river becomes your pulse, your breath, your dream. The stars overhead shimmer through the mist, reflections trembling in the water. Somewhere far away, the first birds of spring might already be stirring. Somewhere, another fire is being lit by hands you will never see, carrying forward the same small flame. You take one final deep breath. The air tastes clean and ancient, filled with quiet peace. The warmth of the earth rises to meet you, and the night wraps around you like gentle cloth. The world hums a lullaby older than words, and you let it cradle you completely. Sleep comes easily now, slow and kind. You drift beyond cold and hunger, beyond fear and sound, into the soft heart of the dark. The fire within you burns steady and calm. Sweet dreams.